Yeah. Sound good to me. This sound hard, something funky people gon' dance to. Give the record a second and a chance to. Hitting people like a scene of amazement. While they slipping back, my feet just planted in the pavement. Crumble like I never do. So now I'm looking dead at you. What are you gonna do? You listen to the knowledge of a scholar. You say how I breathe, tell them how I holler. I'm the E-double, and I proclaim my name. Straight up, good gang, peeps all game. I'm like a rhino, running through the roughest pack. They figure I'm a trigger-happy nigga, so they step back. Breathe. The microphone is who lasts the longest, and who's the strongest. It ain't a game, it's plain to see. You listen to the sounds of breathe. There ain't no future in your front. I never got caught with a kilo, and if you ever do, yo, will never be with me, yo. Serving in the Cherokee, or maybe it's a Geo. Black on black Benzo, we'll get it up, amigo. Never have to worry about my posse getting jumped, cause if we ever do, yo, TB, pop the trunk. Cause we don't go for playing, wanna play, go grab a ball. When I'm on the mic, I ain't for playing, not at all. Cause I clock 10 G's a week, booming at my peak. Always see E sober, but I do get geek. I can give you a job, a place to eat. Hardy, meet your homeboy Marty at a B.O.B. party taking over. Barking like a dog named Rover. I'm picking suckers like a four-leaf clover. They biting words on the Michael Jackson's cobras. So now they saying egg breeders getting over. That ain't no future in your front. That ain't no future in your front. I'm the B, the R to the double E-D, and down with my homie G-A-S-N-O-E, and suckers causing static cause they still be disagreeing. I don't give a, cause I'm from F-L-I-N-T in a city where pity runs slow. If you ever shoot through my city, now you know, cause we a strictly business and we also got a pride. And if you don't like it, I suggest you break wide. Suckers study looking for the ammo in the wire, thinking that illegal is the best for slowly dying. I ain't got time to see a fiend out, to give up all his money and to give up what he got. That's the way I am, MC B cannot be different. Never change the ways for the world or the government. If I was the president, then I would state facts. You leave it up to me, I'll paint the White House black and ain't no future in your front. There ain't no future in your front. Yeah, I got dollars in my pocket, not from rolling. If I was a fiend, then my gold would be stolen. Put my name Breed on everything I own. And when I get my Jeep, I'm putting Breed on the chrome. Shine it up good, kick it through my neighborhood. Motorola phone, fat rims and a Kenwood. Put the kid around it, and then I'll have it drop. Just because the rotten people think I'm selling rocks, but ain't no future in your front. There ain't no future in your front. Yo, Flash, man, drop that, man. Drop that. To the rules of the world. Live my life raw cause I never liked the law. Wear top 10s on my ass, use jeans. Selling big gates and tit for tat to the fiends. Cock much dollars but I never break a sweat. Time to move out, my posse saying, you got my back and I got yours. What time is it? Tear down the door. It ain't no future in your front. Never was, cuz. There ain't no future in your front. Yo, well, let's start this party up, right? Kick out that fat dance.
We Japanese still. You can cook in front of your family like a Japanese meal. It's Yasuka Hibachi and none of you niggas can stop me. Can't help but watch me. So look, bro. Little bro Avery, he put me on the Truth Unedited. There's not a lot I can say about this channel, but the guy's full of sugar honey iced tea, if you know what I mean. A lot of these Black Hebrew Israelites always want to point the finger to other groups like Jews and just white people in general, saying that they're obfuscating history, they're confusing history, they're purposely hiding things, and they're making up history and rewriting history. But why come every time I'm introduced to one of you guys' channels or your new videos, that's exactly what you guys are doing? I mean, Every Black Hebrew Israelite channel known to man has some kind of historical disconfiguration going on where they're lying about either their ancestors being Israelites or all African Americans being Israelites, and then they're making they're warping history, trying to fit that narrative. You got Benaiah talking about on his channel that Black Americans come from, let me see if I get this straight, come from Israelites that fled during the Roman invasion to Spain.
Babylon.
Oh yeah, from Babylon to Spain to Morocco and somehow to the limbo. Like, it's all weird confabulations that you guys just make up. None of this stuff is historical. All of this stuff is made up. All of this stuff is just them pontificating and twisting history and morphing history to create this fake backdrop to their identity claims. And Truth Unedited just created a whole new series on YouTube entitled, let me get this right. Hold on, let me pull it up. I got it right here. It's entitled "We Are Not Black People." Now, I can appreciate someone that understands the history of the word black and understand that it's just a nomer. That's all. It's just a nomer. But when you take it to the extent where you're trying to call people Hamites and trying to characterize certain African groups and try to claim that, oh, these are not our people, now you're going into the pseudo bag. He makes a lot of claims. He makes claims that, oh, we got sold by Hamites, which I've heard that. I've heard that when I was a member of IUIC, we taught it like that. The Hamites sold the Israelites to the Americas. That's how we can make the distinction. The people that sold us are the Hamites. And that's just first of all, that's just untrue. A lot of the people that were doing the selling were related genetically, biologically, to the people they were selling. So that's just an untrue statement. And it's just like this push to make this narrative, sell this narrative. It's paradoxical because you guys claim that everybody else is lying and hiding history and mixing up the history and covering up the history and trying to keep it from you guys. Meanwhile, your leaders, your mores, your cult leaders, like your Truth Unedited, your Benaiahs, your We Woke Nows, your IUICs, your GMSs, ISUPKs, your Side of the TVs, your Garfields. All these people do is spread disinformation and misinformation, misrepresent history, misrepresent data on purpose because they're trying to sell a narrative. Well, Black Hebrew Israelites, the narrative they're trying to sell is somehow, some way, that African Americans somehow are the direct descendants of biblical Israelites. And then when they get hit with cold facts, hard, concrete facts, they have nowhere to run but continue to double down, triple down, and quadruple down on their claims. We just seen that with We Woke Now with Dr. Kelly Richardson. He got hit with hard facts about his ancestral composition versus ancient people that lived in the Levant and did not match the way he wanted to match. He did not get a high amount of quote-unquote Israelite ancestry. Therefore, instead of just accepting the fact, accepting the empirical reality, nope, everybody else is lying but him. This is the atmosphere that we have created on social media. This is what the atmosphere that Black Hebrew Israelites have created, Afrocentrics have created on social media. A lot of lying and distortion of history. That's what we got here. And it's so funny because when I joined IUIC so many years ago, the whole, the attraction to join such a group was that everyone else is lying. The church is lying, the schools are lying, the media is lying, everybody else is lying. That's usually a red flag. That's the red flag for a cult. Everybody else lying, come get the truth from me. And boy, did I learn a bunch of damn lies from IUIC, from a Black Hebrew Israelite organization, maybe the biggest or one of the biggest Black Hebrew Israelite organizations to this day. Now you got these social media giants like Truth Unedited, and all he does is just print out pretty much misinformation and disinformation. So we're about to cover this series. I want to do part 6, Avery. If you want, if there's a particular part you want to start with, we can start with that one. But part 6, I want to deal with that one because he's going into the slave trade and making these false claims about Jews coming in the 3rd century and all this craziness, and just making up his own history. But Avery, before we start, is there anything you wanted to address before we get into his videos?
I'm trying to see a specific video that I might want to cover, but no, you said it all. Ready to get in and look into this dude's claims. Hold on, give me a second.
Let me get a fresh page in my notebook so while the video's going, I have room to jot some things down because I know he's going to make a lot of goddamn claims. Here's the thing about these pseudos: they gish gallop so much. They be like, oh, well, you didn't discount this or you discredit this, but they make so many claims you can't discredit every goddamn thing. It would take forever to sit down and dissect every single false claim this dude's gonna make. So we're just gonna try to hit the hot spots, the major ones, the most absurd ones tonight. Before we get into it, man, some of his claims are that I've already mentioned that, the victims of the slave trade were sold by Hamites. That we are all of the Songhai Empire. That's what he's literally going to say this in this video. That the victims of the slave trade and descendants of African Americans, the African Americans today are all descendants of the Songhai. And the Songhai somehow got overridden by Hamites. And he does a lot of fudging. And we shouldn't call ourselves black, but it's okay to call ourselves Negro. And somebody tell this guy that the word Negro and black are the same, have the same meaning. They denote the same thing. I didn't get that. I was lost on that. So there's a lot of misinformation going on here. And again, the goal of him doing this whole series is just to come to the conclusion, the false conclusion, that African Americans are somehow ancient Israelites. And that this is somehow the fulfillment of this false Black Hebrew Israelite prophecy. Shout out to Sean. The original man doctrine just repackaged and resold to us, over again here by Truth Unedited. So while we wait on Avery,
there's one video we could watch if you wanted, which is the hijackers of the Bible.
All right, when did he upload that one?
That one was 3 weeks ago.
You want to do that one first?
Yeah, hijackers of the Bible, because this is a particular thing that you haven't heard of from him. And
this is gonna be anti-Semitic, right?
Yeah.
Which one are we gonna do? Because it's part 1, part 2.
Part 2.
All right.
That's the most.
All right, we're gonna get.
I was about to say historical, but it's kind of hard to call it historical.
I'm gonna tell you, it's like a prerequisite to be anti-Semitic to be a Black Hebrew Israelite. Like that's like a requirement to get down with the club. You gotta be anti-Semitic. You gotta be against Israel. You gotta be against Jews, random people that y'all don't know, you never met. You gotta be against them. They're evil. They're this, that, and the third. That's another red flag for these pseudo damn channels. So we're gonna watch this one. Then I want to get into that part 6 video. He's making all these dumb claims about Africa. All right, let's get into it. Fair use. We are within our right to cover this video.
But
You said what?
I was gonna say we don't have to cover the whole video. There's a part where we can stop because it gets into, unless you want to cover the whole one, but the whole thing. But we could probably stop like a quarter of the way because he gets into things that I don't particularly study. So we can stop like a quarter of the way. You don't have to watch the whole video. It's like the first maybe like 10 minutes because he covers books that I never read.
You look at the title right here, Understanding Israel, Part 8, The Hebrew Kings of Africa. See, that's what I'm saying. Y'all, you get it. Oh, these people are lying about history. No, you are literally lying about history. Hebrew Kings of Africa. Give me a break. All right, anyway.
This ministry, I have made many videos trying to explain truths that the world system likes to cover up and hide. Many of us have been working diligently to remove the false.
See, there you go. You can't just go in and present your information because you don't have any real information. You have to discredit everything else to try to make yourself, to validate yourself. So you start off with a false dichotomy. The world is hiding this truth, family. The world does not want you to know this, family. I got to go through so many hoops and hurdles to uncover the truth to you guys. When all he did was do what anybody can do, is buy a mic and create a YouTube video and then sell these narratives to y'all. That's all he did. He didn't go on no Indiana Jones, trips to the Raiders of the Lost Ark and found some secret artifacts across the world somewhere and get chased by a damn boulder, and barely escape with his life with these damn secrets that he claims to have. No. He does what any other regular Joe Smo would do, buy a mic, create a YouTube channel, and now he's selling all these damn narratives. And that's the first thing they're going to tell you in any code that you've been lied to. You've been lied to, so come to me so you can get the truth. Same thing with all these damn, any scam or any code goes like this. That's why I never really got down with Bitcoin and the digital money craze and everything. Because people say, oh, your money's fiat, it's fake. Give me your fake money so I can give you this magical voodoo money. Anyway.
Falsehoods spewed from this false world system out of our understanding. Over the past few months, as I've been going over the end times and trying to explain the new covenant, there is always a backdrop of confusion from which people are not truly able to comprehend what it is that I'm actually saying. For instance, in the video about replacement theology last week, many people still did not really understand because they are confused. The problem comes in when I discuss Israel. There are many that believe that when I speak about Israel, I'm talking about modern day Israel. And because of this, there is strong confusion. I truly believe that things are soon to change in this world, and our Father is leading me in a way to speak to the dry bones directly. But before I get there, I need to readdress a subject I went over a few years back so that a major part of the confusion is handled. I do know that there will be many different rebuttals to my message to the dry bones. And if I at least cover this one area, it should help provide enough understanding for those that truly desire to understand and not just ones that seek to disagree at all costs. You see, as I discuss who the Hebrews are, there is always much confusion because of the huge elephant in the room. Basically, what it comes down to is that if this information is true, then who are those people that are in the land of Israel right now? If the information I'm presenting...
See, that's what I'm saying. This is the false dichotomy. They all start with this. Same thing we addressed with We Woke Now 2 nights ago. Same exact thing. They present a black and white fallacy. Well, if we're the real Jews, then who are those people over there? Why does that even have to be an argument?
Right.
They believe if they invalidate them, they think that it validates their own claim to the ancestry.
Exactly.
So weird.
It could never be, maybe we're both Jews. Maybe we're both descendants of Israelites. Nope. Got to be one or the other.
Right. And sadly, the only person I see do that, okay, I give GOCC credit. Maybe they did it. No, I don't even think they did it. Rabbi Rosenberg, the only one I seen do that. Maybe somebody can provide more example. But all these guys feel like they got to demarcate millions of people to try to validate their own claim. And it just comes off as enviousness and jealousiness. Is that even a word? Jealousy and envy. That's saying it like that. That's what it comes off as. And all your arguments are fallacious. So we already started with a faulty premise, and you're doing a false dichotomy with the black and white fallacy. Anyway.
Presenting is true, who are the people that the world says are Jews? This topic is not something that I take lightly because this world does not like the subject being spoken of. Though the history is well documented and plain to see, you won't see any History Channel documentaries explaining what I'm about to say. This topic is a part of the Hijacker series, but I took this video down off of YouTube and put it on my website in a chess move. But as the clock winds down, it's important that these things are brought back out again so that as this world moves in with their agenda, those seeking clarity can have some answers. The first part of the Hijacker series, we dealt with the Roman Catholic Church. And I had to deal with that topic first because when speaking of hijackers, you cannot ever skip over the Roman Catholic Church, which is the beginning point of the planting of the tares and a major point of confusion for this world. And then from part 3, moving on, we dealt with the Protestant Church, which is just a different branch from the seeds that Satan planted when planting his tares. But this current topic that we're on right now, which is part 2, is extremely important to comprehend for many reasons. You know, it's clear that we are in the last days. And regardless of your end time doctrine, the overall understanding of what is to come is the man of sin, the lawless one, the beast of Revelation, whom the world knows as the Antichrist. We know of this figure, but we, for the most part, gloss over what he is coming to do. And especially if you have been influenced by the Christian end times doctrine from people like Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, creators of the Left Behind series, they have told an entertaining story that this Antichrist just comes up out of nowhere in a world that wasn't really living in deception, besides that the majority rejected Jesus. All those who accepted Jesus before were raptured, and the end times is all about making new Christians. That's what the storyline says. That's what end times mainstream Christian doctrine really shows. A part of that story is what the Antichrist does with the Jews. But I'm sorry to tell you, if you didn't already know, that work is a story of fiction, and the truth is quite different than what they have presented. You know, it's clear that everyone expects an Antichrist, an anti-Messiah. If you understood the world that we live in, you would understand that Satan, the god of this world, has been puppet mastering this world for millennia, thousands of years, and has been pushing forth his satanic agenda for his satanic kingdom.
Hey, Ivory, if Satan is doing all the puppet mastering, right? Who are the puppets? Is he a puppet? Are you doing the work of Satan?
No, by revealing this truth, he's doing the work of the Most High God. That's what he would say.
But Satan's the god of this world, so he's the puppet. Would he be one of the puppets? Domain expansion. Domain expansion. Chappelle's workshop. We're all in Who's to say you're not doing the work of Satan either? That's why I like invoking these religious arguments. You doing the work of Satan then. Man,
you could make that argument, yeah. You could.
The time comes, the Antichrist will rise. His rise in short reign is a long-held goal by Luciferians and those who pledge to spread his light. And so what all of them are doing right now is preparing the world for his acceptance by spreading the light of Lucifer. The Antichrist is just a part of this, but he will not come until they feel the world is ready, and most importantly, when Yah allows it. And right now, it clearly seems like the world is ready. Though, like I said, I believe we are waiting on Yah to open up the seals. Anyways, we expect an Antichrist, but we don't realize that the only reason he will rise and be claimed king of the Jews and the rest of the world is because he is being raised up in an anti-Yasharel. For some reason, people expect the Antichrist to be accepted by true Israel, when that's not the case. Everything about this group of people that are inhabitants of this land right now is all about bringing about the conditions for this coming satanic kingdom. This has been a goal for at least a millennia and was only able to come about after the first hijacker that we spoke about in this hijacker series, the Roman Catholic Church, after they dealt harshly with the true Hebrews so that they could properly stamp out knowledge of their existence while bringing the world into
the true Hebrews. He has a short on his channel claiming that these true Hebrews are the ancestors of African Americans, and they are the ones that were excommunicated from and expelled from Portugal and Spain.
Yeah,
Right.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
So my thing is, who are these damn Sephardic Jews today? Like you guys leave a lot of holes in history. Not only you twist and contort history, you always leave a lot of holes in history. We got documents dating back to the time where they were being taken and expelled. And yes, you do have sources. I'm the guy that was doing videos about Black Sephardim that says some of them were dark skinned. But it's what you guys magically do. You magically ignore all of the descriptions that say they were pale, they were white, they were pasty. You always ignore those. Just magically ignore those things. So, yeah, you do have a quote unquote dark skinned variety of Sephardic and Ashkenazic Jews in history, or Mizrahi Jews in history. Again, as we have said to ad nauseum on this channel, just because someone shares the same skin color, skin tone, or can be described in the same way, does not necessarily mean that that's your ancestor or you share common ancestry. African Americans are the greatest example of this because many of you guys will group us together and pretend like you've got the same ancestors. But about 40% of African Americans on their male side are non-African, and then 20% on the female side are non-African. We are a hodgepodge. Some of us are Native Indigenous. Some of us are West African, East African, South African, North African. Some of us are Western European, Northern European, Eastern European, some of us Southeast Asian. We can go on and on and on about the variegation of Black American ancestry. But just like all these pseudos have to do, they rely on race. He claims to decry race, but he's actually relying on race and the idea that if you share the same race, you share the same ancestry. That's why they go back in time and say, oh, they're describing Negroes here. That must be our ancestors. They're random people. You don't even know that what ancestral components they have. How you don't just claim random people? You don't know nothing about those people. You don't know nothing about them on a biological standpoint, in a genetic standpoint, to make these ancestral claims that Black people love, Black American cult leaders love to make. Anyway.
To acceptance of the hijackers. Now, right now, you might think all of this sounds crazy or a reach, but I don't think you can hold this view as we go through this history. So we're going to discuss the history of the people who the world feels are the actual chosen people. Let's begin.
Dad bods deserve better teas.
Okay, so before we begin, let me say this. I love the Semitic people. I do not hate anyone. I simply have a view of history that may differ from what the mainstream.
No, just because you say you love the Semitic people does not mean you don't have anti-Semitic, talking points of propaganda. You about to go into a whole anti-Semitic rant on this video talking about I love Semitic people. You know what that reminds me of? My friends are Black. I got a Black friend. So then you continue to say some hateful ass shit about Black people in general. Like, who cares if you got a Black friend? What you just said was Black, that was racist toward Black people. So that's the same shit you doing. I love Semitic people. Exactly. But you about to go on a whole rant calling them frauds, saying that they spawns of Satan. Satan's the puppet, the puppet master, and they the puppets. They're the Pinocchio in this story, right? But you love Semitic people. Get the GTFOH.
Teaches you. But this is not about hate, but about facts and understanding. I'm speaking from a standpoint of history. And as I have done with my other series, like the Understanding Israel series and the Hijacker series, or the History That You Should Not Ignore series, I will cite my sources from which I am bringing this history out. And let me be clear that once this information is presented, a quick Google search can confirm all of this. because the information is not even hidden. It's just not mainstream. So for this video, I will be using Arthur Koestler's book, The 13th Tribe, and Kevin Allen Brooks.
Oh, we all knew that was coming. Come on, bro. Everybody knew this shit. We saw this coming. Arthur Koestler and the 13th Tribe Black Hebrew Israelites love that pseudo work. He loves running to his book.
It's funny that these are like the only two books people can use to try to demarcate Jewish people. Meanwhile, there's like quite a few. And by the way, that means many genetic studies on Jews that illustrate they have Levantine ancestry, Middle Eastern ancestry.
Right.
And also there's even their own books that illustrate that they come from the Levant because they have their own records. Like Jews are notorious for keeping records. So like they have the records of the rabbis, who their rabbis were, which go back to people in the Middle East and stuff like that. But anyways.
Yeah, man. Also, I'm surprised he didn't give the other one by what's the dude's name, Sand or whatever. The creation of the Jewish people.
Yeah, Shlomo Sands. Yeah.
Yeah. They love it. Oh, we hear these same sources being circulated. Somebody in the comment brought that up. They circulate these same pseudo damn sources over and over again, trying to propagate this myth. Jewish people, by and large, are not Khazarians. Could they have Khazarian components? Sure. But everybody that's a Jewish person or claiming Jewish ancestry are not of that derivation.
Like it's hard for me to believe that Beta Israel in Ethiopia will be of Khazarian extraction.
Right.
Or the Yemeni Jews will be of Khazarian ancestry. Or the Mizrahi Jews in Iraq and Iran will be of Khazarian ancestry. Like people always love honing in on the Ashkenazi as though the Ashkenazi are the only Jewish population on the planet. But it's like, no, there's a bunch of other type of Jews besides Ashkenazi. Like again, I mentioned Mizrahi, Beta Israel, Yemeni Jews, Jews in India. I forgot their name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Colchin Jews.
Yeah, Colchin Jews, Limba Jews, etc., etc. So,
right, like this Khazarian myth, man. This is a Khazarian myth being pushed over and over again, shoved down people's throat, all to what? To demarcate these people. After you said, I love Semitic people, but you're not bringing forth the evidence. All you're doing is pushing propaganda to say that they're fake, they're false. That's it. You're not showing like, okay, a real survey of scholarship here. Okay, I have this source, I have that source, and then compare and contrast. And you go straight to the pseudo books. Arthur Koestler. You go into the Jews of Khazaria. I'm surprised you ain't got Shlomo Sands' book here. Y'all all circulate the same filth, and none of that stuff has been proven. All of it has been debunked and refuted. The genomes of Jewish people have been studied over and over and over again, and none of it validates it. Here's the crazy thing. Khazarians are a common era kingdom. Jews exist before Khazarians, before the Khazarian Empire came about. And we know the genetic composition of Khazaria. The Jews' genetic composition is starkly different. Anyway.
Book, The Jews of Khazaria. I'll try to place these books on my website. Let me again be clear. There have been many different books on this subject. Dr. Godby, in his book, The Lost Tribes, A Myth, he speaks on this topic as well. But these books were specifically...
Let me answer this brother here. Who started the Sephardic origin doctrine? I'll argue that it started in the 70s, and this is why. Because I got the idea from the brother who wrote the book, The Lost Tribes. I just lost it. What's the brother's name? Everybody that's an Israelite, a Black Hebrew Israelite, knows this book that I'm trying to reference right now. I just lost it. Well, anyway, he spoke about it in the he wrote a book in the 70s, and he will go to these sources, pointing out the Portuguese Jews and Spanish Jews were considered to be dark or dark complected. And he would say, oh, make the connection from Babylon to Timbuktu. That's the name of the book. He would make that connection. So I'll argue that that's the origin of it, because he's the first person that I'm aware of to make these claims. So I think that's the origin of it. I read his book. I was one of the few people when I was a part of Israel United in Christ. I started a book club. And I was one of the few people that actually finished my books. So I thoroughly read through his books. That's how I found out about Nahum Slush. I've been seeing you brothers quoting Nahum Slush too. I found out Nahum Slush through him because that was one of his sources that he drew from. And he would make these extravagant claims about basically what we say today. Oh, Hebrews are black, and therefore African Americans have some kind of tie to ancient Hebrews, yada, yada, yada.
Made for this topic, and therefore they discuss this topic the most in depth. So let's get into it. Fortunately, the answer to the question of who are the people in this land is the beginning answer to where we must start this whole understanding. So let's speak on it. These people are Khazars or Khazars. I'm not sure how they pronounced it, but that's the word if you ever want to research it on your own. So in order to understand this subject, we need to discuss the Khazars. Kevin Brooks explains that the Khazars emerged on the world scene as Turkic horsemen who believed in shamanism and lived a nomadic lifestyle. They are predominantly Turkic and probably originated in the steppes of Central Asia or perhaps in the Ural or Caucasus Mountains.
All right, pause right there. So he's accepting the fact that the Khazars are Turkic people. Obviously you'll have to accept that fact. I mean, there's no other ethnic group that the Khazars can be other than Turks. So that being said, if he is accepting academia saying that Khazars are Turks, then all we have to do from this point is look at the genome of Turkic people and compare it to the genome of Jewish people. And if the genomes don't match, then Jews are not Turks. So, I mean, it's about as simple as that. And again, like you said, Jashu, like maybe some, Jews could have some Turkic connections or ancestry because Judaism is a religion at the end of the day. Like anybody can convert. So could there be some Jewish Turks? Yeah, sure. But saying that all Ashkenazi people are Turks would be incorrect. You can't apply the all word onto that ethnic group, onto the Ashkenazi people or the Jewish people as a whole. I can probably pull up some papers dealing with the Turks and Jews, but I'll have to find something. But anyways, is there anything you want to say?
I got you right here.
Okay.
Right here. This don't take none of this. This really don't take too long. Let's just read the abstract of this paper. Excavated DNA from 2 Khazar burials. We don't live in a Stone Age. It's not the 70s no more. You can be sly, but people that can actually research is always going to catch you with that left hook. I'll hit you with that black flash while Jujutsu Kaisen. But anyway, so the abstract is the summation of the paper, right? It says to understand a biological tribal affiliation in terms of Y chromosomal haplogroups, subclades, and haplotypes of 2 excavated Khazar bone remains in the Lower Don region in South Russia. We have extracted and analyzed their DNA and showed that they belong to haplogroup R1A in its subclade Z93. The pattern could be considered typically Turkic. Ain't that what you just brought up? And not a Jewish DNA lineage. Oh my God, man. That's what I'm saying. There's a mountain of evidence like this. And you guys keep going to these books that were written 100 years ago.
That has no DNA.
That has no DNA and none of that in consideration to make these goddamn claim, keep echoing these sentiments because you're pseudo. The very fabric of your YouTube channel is pushing pseudo nonsensical garbage. Anyway, he goes on to say their haplotypes were also identified and reported here. Haplotypes indicate that both Khazars were unrelated to each other in a sense that their common ancestors lived as long as 1,500 to 2,500 years earlier than them. In the middle of the second millennium BC, beginnings of the first millennium BC, during the typically Scythian times of somewhat earlier. The haplotypes are unrelated to well-known Jewish haplotypes of haplogroup R1. Hey, so even Jews have R1A. It is not of the same clade or variety that was found amongst the Khazarians. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these pseudo claims wither around the edges when you start presenting, concrete facts to them. DNA is a concrete fact. You guys keep pushing these 100-year-old tales about Jewish ancestry, and none of it has withstood the test of time.
Yeah, it's not holding up.
It's not.
And it's no different than like crazy whack job conspiracy theories about black people that folks wrote about in the same time period as these books came out about Jews.
Facts.
Like anthropologists of the past just think black folks were like half monkey human hybrids. That stuff turned out to not be true based on genetics. All humans are 99.9% related. So it's like you can't have one branch of humans being half monkey or something. So it's like these books talk about Jews being Khazars. That's also outdated too, and obviously not correct. Like a lot of books in this particular time period got a lot of things wrong about race and about different ethnic groups and stuff. Just read any book dealing with quote unquote race from the 1800s, early 1900s, late 1900s, etc., early 20th century.
Yeah, the racial hygiene, eugenics movement, all those things, they was pumping out negative arguments about, like you said, African Americans, black people in general, Jewish people. That's what that book Hybrid Hate was all about. That's what it was about. Call them Negroid parasites. All this negative press that was going on during that time because of the idea of racial hygiene. They look at these groups of different races. Oh, there's something wrong with them. You're not white, Nordic, and blue-eyed. You're not right. You're not from the lofty race. So therefore, you are less.
Not an Aryan or Hyperborean, as they'll say.
Right, you're not from the Aryan race. Therefore, you're a beast. You can't be a Christian. You can't be all these things. Satan spawn, sons of Cain. All those things are documented on how these people that were pushing racial hygiene hard in the 19th century and early 20th century. Anyway, and you see a resurgence of this way of thinking in these Black Hebrew Israelite cults. You guys speak in the same vein as Adolf Hitler, the same vein as Woodrow Wilson, Edward Clark, the leader of the damn KKK. Y'all speak just like those guys.
Basically, the details of their origins are said to be somewhat obscure. Now, I do have a reason for this, and Edom is a part of this, but I'm not ready to discuss that. Y'all willing, I can get to that at another point. But let's just deal with the facts right now that I can show you. Koestler writes that the origin of the name Khazar has been the subject of much speculation. Most likely the word is derived from the Turkish root gaz, to wander, and simply means nomad. And they speculate this because this is what Khazars were. Brooks says the Khazars were racially and ethnically mixed. Among them were black-haired peoples with dark brown eyes, red-haired peoples with green or hazel eyes, and fair-haired people with blue eyes. Many resembled Europeans or Eastern Europeans. One of the earliest factual references.
All right, so again, they love phenotype probing people because they think, oh, if I say they're white and they look European, that means that I can put this ancestry on Jews because they're white and they look European. No, Jews look white because of various reasons, various contacts. So they absorbed European people, of course, when they went to Southern Europe and set up shop in Central Europe and surrounding areas. But even before that, they still had some elements of lighter skin or pale skin amongst them. Blue eyes was amongst them amongst their ancestors, shall I say. during the Chalcolithic period. It was either light-skinned alleles that were present that at that time wasn't dominant. We know there were dark skin there during the Middle Late Bronze Age. We discussed that before. There was intermediate skin being the predominant look. But again, you got to think about it. These people move, they migrate, they marry, they mate, and they intermix with people. That's what that paper about the Erfurt burials are all about. Wait a minute. These people that Ashkenazi Jews descend from were actually more diverse than Ashkenazi Jews today. They were more diverse. And that's because these people, they're traveling, they're moving. The women are marrying other males and vice versa.
Exactly. And also, keep in mind, not all Jews are even white. Like, Jews really come in all shapes and sizes and skin tones. You have Jews that look like Chinese people, Jews that look like East Africans, North Africans, Jews that look like other Middle Easterners like Iraqis and Iranians, Jews that look like Yemenis, Jews that look like Southern Europeans like Italians and Greeks, got Jews that look like Sub-Saharan Africans like Bantu, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, all Jews aren't even, like, to say Jews are white is ridiculous, because they, for one, it's a religion. So technically anybody can convert to it and then therefore be a Jew, and therefore that their phenotype will be added to the Jewish whole color of people. So it's like, they're not one thing. They're not one skin tone.
Right. And again, they what do you call it? They absorb other people groups as well. So again, like you brought out, this is a culture. This is a religion. So you got Ethiopian Jews. What are you gonna say? Oh, y'all fake, aren't? No, they real because they black. No, that's not how it works, man. That's not how it works. I have a weird way of looking at the cultural group known as the Jews. But back to his statement about these Khazarians being all pale skin and whatnot, and having these European features. Well, they actually phenotype the remains of the Khazarians from southern Russia. So we're going to read it right here. Again, it's just another abstract summation. Ancient DNA analysis helped to solve the problems related to geographic origin and migration patterns of populations. The Khazar Khaganate is a subject of controversy among researchers. Its complex historical development, lack of sufficient number of artistic and written sources, the disappearance of the representatives of the Khazar culture leaves open the question of the appearance of the Khazars. DNA phenotyping of bone remains from elite burials of the Khazar period of southern Russia was carried out with respect to eye color, hair color, skin color, AB0 blood types. 8 out of 10 individuals had brown eyes, dark hair to varying degrees, and predominantly dark skin during their lifetime. This is completely the opposite, diametrically opposed to what Truth Unedited quoted from that pseudo garbage book. They were primarily dark skinned, but they're not going to push this. Now, I know Arthur Koestler may have said something similar. Oh, there were dark Khazarians and light Khazarians, but for the most part, you don't hear this sentiment being echoed, because again, these guys are racist and they go off of the concept of race and try to bunch everybody with the same look or skin tone together. So they would not bring up, oh, they were dark skinned, predominantly dark skinned from the burials, right? Predominantly dark skinned Khazarians. It says individuals from 2 burials had gray blue eyes, and 1 individual had blonde hair. Most probable AB0 blood group was identified in 8 people, of which the 5 blood group 0, 4 had A, and 1 had B. The allele frequency distribution was assessed for 10 population-specific autosomal markers and suggested high heterogeneity for the ethno-geographic origin of the Khazars examined. The results are evidence of ethno-cultural, genetic, and phenotypic diversity of the Khazar Khaganate. So they were not all the same. They were predominantly dark. And we already know about the R1A haplogroup, but they also had the Q. I think they had the C haplogroup amongst them. So again, people groups are way more complex than just saying, hey, these people are white. And since they're white, that means the Ashkenazis are Khazarians. It don't work like that. It does not work like that. That's pseudo. That's a faulty generalization fallacy. Anyway, let's get back to it.
To the Khazars dates from the year 555 AD, when an anonymous author wrote a supplement attached to the Syriac translation of Greek church history of Zacharias Rater. In this supplement, Brooks says the Khazars were listed among the nomadic tribes living in tents north of the Caucasus Mountains. And so if you just want to start there and go in the Britannica, you can see that this information is used. But as we get to where I'm going in this video, their information gets cloudy. I just want to make sure you can follow this yourself in your own studies. Start at Khazars.
By the way, pausing really quick. Again, he says that it gets confusing after a certain point. Jashub literally just showed burials. We have Khazarian DNA. It is not confusing at all learning about the Khazars. They're not a mystery people that the government is secretly trying to hide and not let folks know about. Like, we have scientists have already dug up their bodies and tested them. So keep in mind the things that Truth Unedited is saying, that this stuff is hard to look into. Like, this either shows one of two things. One, he clearly hasn't researched enough on the topic of Khazars, which is why he keeps running into dead ends. Or two, which means he's a bad researcher, by the way, if he can't find anything else. Or two, he has done deep research. He does know about the genetic studies, and he's deliberately not telling his audience the other side of the spectrum when it comes to Khazars. So either way, it's bad, whether he's a bad researcher or he's just lying to his audience and not give them the full truth. But yeah, you can go ahead, Joshua. Unless there's anything you want to add.
I want to read Palermo because he made a good point. So y'all mentioned the Waldman et al. 2022 sequence 33 ancient Ashkenaz Jews from 1270 to 1400. Yeah, that's the Erfurt Jew paper. So they clustered between Europe and the Levant. Yes. And figure 3 shows admixture model. They have Levantine DNA. Yes, they do. They do. I mean, it's apparent they do. And then there's another weird thing about this. Wow, Khazar, y'all think Jews, I don't even know how to put this together without getting frustrated. There were Jews existing before the Khazarian Empire and after the Khazarian Empire. I never heard a Black Hebrew Israelite try to swear that with that weird contortion of history. You had Jews in Rome. You had Jews in North Africa during this time. You had Jews in Spain. You had Jews still in the Levant. I did a whole video about even after the Jews, the fall of Jerusalem, right? Even after that period, you still had sparse Jewish settlement there, all the way up to the modern era. It wasn't a complete eradication of Jews from there. They still were living there. So how do you swear that? You can't swear it. How did Khazarians even learn about Judaism? Because Jews migrated there and converted, I believe, King Bulan. Come on, man. Anyway.
For over 60 years, the Western Turks ruled the Khazars. In the year 567 AD, hordes of Western Turks arrived in the Volga River region. They assumed control over the Sabirs, Onagers, and Alans of the North Caucasus. By circa 570, the Khazars were under the jurisdiction of the Western Turkish Empire. The Western Turkish Empire broke apart during the 630s. The tribes of the North Caucasus found themselves in the midst of a major transition. After the disintegration of the Western Turkish Empire, the Khazars were able to reassert their independence in their land. So basically, after the fall of the Western Turks, they began to govern themselves. That's all I'm saying. This is not mainstream history, which is why you might not have heard of them. It's important to also clarify this is not to be confused with the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire did not come on the scene as of yet, so don't be confused. We are in the 7th century right now. The independent state of Khazaria was established in the 630s and 640s. The whole region between the Volga and the fortress city of Derbent came into the possession of the Khazars, this whole area right here. The Khazars soon became the dominant power in southern Russia. The expansion of Khazaria into new territories displaced other ethnic groups. Khazaria was one of the most diverse nations of medieval Europe. It was a multi-ethnic society with a population of Slavic, Turkic, Iranian, Arabic, and Caucasian peoples who professed other faiths, including Islam and Christianity. What I'm trying to explain here is that this group of people were not Hebrews. They did not descend from Hebrews by blood. They were a mixture of different groups, different tribes, but they were not mixed with, nor were they descendants from Judah or Yasharel. In Kevin Brooks' book, this is a map of Khazaria and neighboring empires in the 9th and 10th century. This area is what we know as Ukraine today. And understand, that's not a coincidence. But let's keep going. Khazaria was a major center for trade, especially in the 8th and 9th centuries. The Khazars controlled several trade routes that connected Asia and Europe. One of the most important of these was along the Volga. This was a well-known people. Unlike the history I had to go through about the Khazar dynasty and understanding Israel Part 8, the Khazars and their history is well known and it's not even hidden. That's why when anyone challenges me about who these people in the land are, I could tell they haven't tried to research them at all because they're not hiding this information. It's very plain to see.
Wait. So when you begin the video saying that you got to go through all these painstaking hurdles or whatever,
Exactly.
they hid the information, they hide, and Satan's playing puppet master, and we all the puppets. Now you're saying it's plain to see which one is it. Which one is it? You let a liar talk long enough, he's gonna unveil that he's lying.
I also think it's fun because he said that anybody who basically denies his information clearly hasn't studied hard enough, is what he's basically is what he said. And it's like, so it kind of almost sounds like you already have a pre a bias for the information that you have that he chooses to believe in. And it's
Right.
like, how you even, like, where do you even begin to talk to somebody like this?
Right. Man. Got his head up his own ass, man.
So these are the people, the Khazars. The next question must be, where am I going with all this? How did they become Jewish, right? Well, it's very simple. They converted. Arthur Koestler explains, at the beginning of the 8th century, the world was polarized between the two superpowers representing Christianity and Islam. The ideological doctrines were welded to power politics pursued by the classical methods of propaganda, subversion, and military conquest. Basically saying that during the times of the 8th century, the world was ruled by either Christianity or Islam. That's all it's saying. So the Khazar Empire represented a third force, which had proved equal to either of them, both as an adversary and an ally. But it could only maintain its independence by accepting neither Christianity nor Islam, for either choice would have automatically subordinated it to the authority of the Roman Emperor or the Caliph of Baghdad. There had been no lack of efforts by either court to convert the Khazars to Christianity or Islam, though, but all they resulted in was the exchange of diplomatic courtesies, dynastic intermarriages, and shifting military alliances based on mutual self-interest. Relying on its military strength, the Khazar kingdom was determined to preserve its position as the third force, summing that all up basically saying that in order to keep their independence, they weren't going to accept Christianity or Islam. Koestler quotes J.B. Berry from his book, A History of the Eastern Roman Empire. It says, there can be no question that the ruler was actuated by political motives in adopting Judaism. To embrace Mohammedanism would have made him the spiritual dependent of the caliphs, who attempted to press their faith on the Khazars. And in Christianity lay the danger of his becoming an ecclesiastical vassal of the Roman Empire. Judaism was a reputable religion with sacred books which both Christian and Mohammedan respected. It elevated him above the heathen barbarians and secured him against the interference of caliph or emperor. But he did not adopt, along with the circumcision, the intolerance of the Jewish cult. He allowed the mass of his people to abide in their heathendom and worship their idols. You see, they were adopting the faith. They weren't actually taking it in sincerity. It was a political move. This is very similar to what the Roman Catholic Church did when they made Christianity their main religion. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
There's a few issues here,
You're fine.
but all right. So he's saying that. All right. So for one, when it comes to people who convert into Judaism, or when it comes to people who accept the laws and want to follow the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that person becomes an Israelite. So technically speaking, when these Jews, or when these, I guess you can say, Gentiles become Israelites, he's supposed to see them as brothers and sisters. He's not supposed to like be trying to hound them because of their skin tone or whatever. Like, they're supposed to be seen as legitimate fellow heirs to the promise. And I think that's why he also slips in the idea that this was a political move and that they weren't truly trying to become part of the faith, which is funny because, like, how do you know what people are doing from like
Yeah.
1,000 years ago? You
Yeah.
like, you know, their inner thoughts 1,000 years ago that it wasn't legitimate, that they weren't.
He cast Rennie Rebirth. And he had an interview. He had a personal interview with him after he did.
Or maybe, or hey, what did you say earlier, Jashu? He said that Satan is the god of the world, and could he be working?
Yeah, he's working for Satan. Satan's like, listen, I know these people. Trust me. That's what they said. That's how they felt.
He's been alive for 1,000 years, bro. Over 1,000.
Yeah.
That's how he knows what King Bulan was saying. He was at the court that day.
Yeah, he was there. Like, I know this is a tent. I know his heart. He was full of sugar honey iced tea. He was not legit. He only did that for political reasons, bro.
And here's the thing, even if we were to say, like, let's just go ahead and say, for sake of argument, that, okay, the royal house of King Bulan converted for political reasons. That doesn't mean the rest of the citizens converted for political reasons. They could have converted because they legitimately wanted to become Jews. No different than in the story of Esther. The Iranians, the people under the Persian Empire, it said that many of them became Jews. So it's like, it would be no different with the King Bulan situation. It's like, sometimes people just choose to become Jews. And even if it is political, it still doesn't matter, because in the book of Esther, the population of Persia, a lot of the people there, a lot of the Gentiles in Persia became Jews for a political reason, because it says in the story that they became Jews because they didn't want to suffer. I believe they didn't want to suffer the same. I have to find the specific chapter, but basically they want to become Jews because they had fear of the Jews, and so they converted. So, and there was nothing really wrong seeing, and the scriptures kind of allude to the fact that there really wasn't anything wrong with that, with them becoming Jews. So it's like, I don't see an issue here with this whole conversion thing.
Yeah, basically just selling a demonized version of the history, because they believe Jews are largely of the Khazarian extraction, so therefore it all had to be a coup. It all had to be felonious from the beginning. It all had to be wicked from the beginning, because they're wicked people. That's basically what he's doing. So I'll just go to the source real quick, because I actually own Jewish history books. You know what I'm saying? I'll just run to the damn same books y'all run to all the time in your BHI reference catalog. This is The Jew in the Medieval World, a source book, 315 to 1791, page 255. I'm going to read on. The medieval Jewish kingdom of the Khazars. It's a very short read. It doesn't even take that long. It says about the year 740, many of the Khazars, a powerful Turkish tribe occupying the steppes of southern Russia, became converts to Judaism. More than 2 centuries later, the report of the existence of this Jewish kingdom aroused the curiosity of Hasdai ibn Shaprut, about 915, 970. So again, the quick contradiction here, but they think the main source of Jews are these Khazarians. But even after they did convert, I think in 740, and then 200 years later, this Jew right here, Hasdai, He was like, oh, what about this Jewish kingdom up here in Khazaria? Shouldn't he not exist because the main source, the main impetus of Jews is coming from Khazaria? See, history does not gel well with the ideas and the contorted history of Black Hebrew Israelites. Let me keep reading. It says, Ibn Shaprut was not only the personal physician of the Spanish caliphs al-Rahman III and his son Hakim II, 961 and 976, was also the Inspector General of Customs and an advisor in foreign affairs. To satisfy his curiosity, he wrote to the ruler of the Khazars about 960, and sometime later he received an answer from Joseph, the reigning king. The letters of Hasdai and Joseph, both originally written in Hebrew, are given below in abstract. So this is actually from the document and the conversation they had in the 10th century. And again, this is a Spanish caliph, so Jews were in existence during the time of this Khazarian empire that had converted to Judaism. So how do you swear this history? That's what I'm trying to find out. There were already Jews in Spain. There was already Jews there. There was Jews in Africa. There was Jews in Palestine still. How do you swear this history? Somebody please explain that. Anyway, it says, letter of Rabbi Hasdai, son of Isaac, Ibn Shaprut, king of Khazar, about 960. Hasdai, son of Isaac, son of Ezra, belonged to the exiled Jews of Jerusalem in Spain. I don't know how. Can somebody in the chat tell me, how do you have correspondence with Jews in Spain if all the Jews came from Khazar? Somebody explain that to me, please. Anyway, keep reading. Let me go back. A servant of my lord the king, bowed to the earth before him and prostrated myself towards the abode of your majesty from a distant land. I rejoice in your tranquility and magnificence and stretch forth my hands to God in heaven that he may prolong your reign in Israel. Praise be to the beneficent God for his mercy towards me, kings of the earth, to whom his magnificence and power are known. Bring gifts to him, conciliating his favor by costly presents, such as the king of the Franks, the king of Gebelum, who are the Germans, king of Constantinople, and others. All their gifts pass through my hands, and I am charged with making gifts in return. Even Shahrukh, who knew several languages, received these embassies. Let my lips express praise to God of heaven, who so far extends his loving kindness towards me without any merit of my own, but in fullness of his mercies. I'm still kind of a little confused by reading this letter. Now, watch what this Jew says. See, now they claim to be these Sephardic or Spanish Jews. They claim that these are their ancestors. Well, this is the attitude of these people that you claim to be descendants of towards the Khazarian Jewish kingdom. It says here, I always ask the ambassadors of these monarchs who bring gifts about our brethren, the Israelites, the remnant of the captivity, whether they have heard anything concerning the deliverance of those who have languished in bondage and have found no rest. He was anxious to know if the lost 10 tribes existed in an independent Jewish state anywhere. He said, at Lent, mercantile emissaries of Khazarian, a land east of the Caspian Sea, Khorasan, told me that there's a kingdom of Jews which is called Al-Khazar. But I did not believe these words, for I thought they told me things to procure my goodwill and favor. I was therefore wondering till the ambassadors of Constantinople came between 944 and 949 with presents and a letter from their king to our king, and I interrogated them concerning this matter. They answered me, it is quite true, and the name of that kingdom is Al-Khazar. It is 15th-day journey by sea from Constantinople, but by land many nations intervene between us. The name of the king now reigning is Joseph. Ships sometimes come from their country to ours, bringing fish, skins, and wares of every kind. The Khazars, great traders, got their wares from Russians to the north. The men are our confederates and are honored by us. There is communication between us by embassies and mutual gifts. They are very powerful. They maintain numerous armies, which they occasionally engage in expeditions. When I heard this report, I was encouraged. My hands were strengthened and my hope was confirmed. Thereupon I bowed down and adored the God of heaven. Hastile was happy Christians could no longer say that Jews were without a country as a punishment for the rejection of Jesus. So this Jew in Spain was rejoiceful to find out about Khazarians. You fast forward 1,000 years, the Khazarians are the spawn of Satan.
That's a very good source. So the Jews at that time were actually excited to hear about more Jews, more Jewish brethren, as well as a Jewish kingdom. Very
Right.
interesting. They were excited and praised the Most High God for it.
Yes. So we got a country ran by Jews. You can't say that we're stateless now. That's the whole thing. Fast forward to nowadays, Khazarians, the devils, Satan's puppets that's controlling the world. Anyway, it says, I pray for the health of my Lord, the King, of his family in his house, and that his throne may be established forever. Let his days and his son's days be prolonged in the midst of Israel. This is what he said. So real quick before I continue reading this, these are your ancestors according to y'all. Y'all claim to be Sephardic Jews. Matter of fact, he has a short. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. YouTube real quick, and then
it's funny. Out of all the Jewish populations and ethnic groups, or out of all the people that the Jews encounter throughout history, it seems to be that the Khazars are the ones that get the biggest rap and hatred towards. You don't see anybody really talk ill will about the Iraqi people, and then Jews being related or descending from Iraqis, or you don't see people really mock or talk about Iranians or Yemenis or Ethiopians or Italians or whatever. But the Jews and when it comes to Khazars, that's what gets the biggest upheaval. But I feel like, well, for one, I like to add that when it comes to this particular type of hatred, when it comes to the Khazars, and then when it comes to this particular type of hatred when it comes to Jews, for one, it stems from anti-Semitism when it comes to Jews being in Europe. Because when it comes to the Jews and the Khazars, what a lot of people forget is Europe and Turks don't have the best history, because there was a lot of Turkic invasions going on, particularly in Eastern Europe, and then there was a lot of wars between the Christian kingdoms and the Turkic kingdoms. And then the Christian kingdoms already had issues with the Jews as well. So it's like, this is kind of like a European type of hatred for the East, in a sense, that kind of got amalgamated together. So it's interesting when you hear Black Hebrew Israelites talk about Khazars and talk about Jews, because that stuff stems from like European anti-Semitism. What are Black Hebrew Israelites talking about Khazars for? Like, this stuff comes originally from British Israelism and comes from like Nazi type of propaganda and stuff.
yes, yep.
Because the Turks is the one group that everybody like loves to hate when it comes to like this European stuff. But anyways, I just feel like adding
the point that needs to be made clear is that there were Yahudim, Jews, that dwelt in Spain and Portugal for centuries. The Roman Catholic Church tried to convert them. Those that converted by name but not sincerity were known as Marranos. Because of the Marranos, we had the Spanish Inquisition. After the Spanish Inquisition, Spain expelled the Yahudim in 1492. Many fled into Africa through Morocco. The majority fled to Portugal. Portugal was already sending its Yahudim residents to an island off the coast of Africa, south of the slave coast of Ouida, or Judah, the place where they began to run their slave trade through. Now
Bro, this dude just distorted so much history in this small clip. So let's talk about these claims. He claims that African American ancestors were the Sephardic Jews that were deported. So if they're the Sephardic Jews that deported, then they're the same Sephardic Jews that were praising and getting happy, rejoicing that the Khazarians were a Jewish kingdom.
Bro, you can't make this stuff. You can't make it up, bro.
So y'all need to be happy and rejoicing in that, man. Y'all should have a Black Hebrew Israelite holiday named Khazaria Day.
Again, this goes back to what I said earlier. The Jews, when you convert to being a Jew, you are part of the brethren. You are part of the family of all the other Jewish communities around the world. So again, even if the story of this conversion is true, you should see them as your brothers.
Yeah.
That's why those Jews in that time period rejoiced, because they're like, whoa, more people are part of the family. This is great. Whether they're converts or whether they're ancient Israelites that migrated to Khazaria, brothers are brothers, sisters are sisters. The same thing is true when they found Jews in Africa. Folks rejoiced. They're like, yay, there's Jews here. Let's celebrate. Oh, there's Jews in East Asia, in China. Let's celebrate. Oh, there's Jews in India. Let's celebrate.
Right, man. Totally different attitude with these Black Hebrew Israelite extremists. But anyway, so we go back here. It says the letter of Joseph the king, son of Aaron the king, the Turk, may his creator preserve him, to the head of the assembly, has died, the son of Isaac, son of Ezra, about 960. Goes on to read, I wish to inform you that your beautifully phrased letter was given us by Isaac, son of Eleazar, a Jew of the land of Germany. This is another, punching holes in these in a pseudo's narratives are very easy, because everything they're saying is a contradiction to what actually was going on. You already had Jews in Germany at this time. You already had Jews in Spain. But no, the main source of impetus of modern Jewry does not come from Khazaria. Y'all made that up. We're reading.
Well, really, they're just the babies of British Israelism and Nazism. That's where they get this stuff from. It was the British Israelism movement, and obviously the Nazis and anti-Semites of medieval Europe that came up with this stuff first. Black Hebrew Israelites are just reusing their information and thinking they're the ones who made it up first.
Yeah. Regurgitating this nonsense. Again, so you have Eleazar, a Jew of the land of Germany. So Jews were already in Germany by this time. It says, you made us happy, and we are, Isaac carried it through Germany, Hungary, and Russia to Khazaria. It says, you made us happy, and we are delighted with your understanding and wisdom. Let us therefore renew the diplomatic relations that once obtained between our fathers, and let us transmit our heritage to our children. Joseph believes the Khazars once had diplomatic relations with the Spanish Arabs. You ask us also in your epistle of what people, what family, and what tribe are you? Know that we are descended from Japhet through the son Togarmah. In Jewish literature, Togarmah is the father of all the Turks. I have found in the genealogical books of my ancestors that Togarmah had 10 sons. These are their names: the eldest Ujur, second Taurus, the third Avar, the fourth Ugas, fifth Bazal, the sixth Tarna, and the seventh Khazar, the eighth Jur, the ninth Bogar, and the 10th Sawir. These are the mythical founders of the tribes that once lived in the neighborhood of the Black Caspian Sea. So I'm reading the letter, but I'm also reading what's in brackets, explaining what's going on. It says, I am a descendant of Khazar, the seventh son. I have a record that through our fathers were few in number, the Holy One, blessed be he, gave them strength, power, and might, so that they were able to carry on war after war with many nations who were more powerful and numerous than they. By the help of God, they drove them out and took possession of their country. Upon some of them, they have imposed forced labor even to this very day. The land along the Volga, in which I now live, was formerly occupied by the Bulgarians. Our ancestors, the Khazars, came and fought with them, and although these Bulgarians were as numerous as the sand on the shores of the sea, they could not withstand the Khazars. So they left their country and fled while the Khazars pursued them as far as the Danube River. Up to this very day, the Bulgars camp along Danube and are close to Constantinople. The Khazars have occupied their land up till now. The Khazars, known since the 2nd century, dominated southern Russia during the Middle Ages. After this, several generations passed until a certain king arose whose name was Bulan. He was a wise and God-fearing man, trusting in his creator with all his heart. He expelled the wizards and idolaters from the land and took refuge in the shadow of his wings. After his fame was spread broadcast, Bulan probably ruled about 740. He was the first Jewish Khazar ruler. The kings of the Byzantines and the Arabs who had heard of him sent their envoys and ambassadors with great riches and many great presents to the king, as well as some of their wise men with the object of converting him to their own religion. The Byzantines and Arabs hoped to stop the raids of the Khazars by converting them. But the king made his soul be bound up in the bundle of life with the Lord his God, being wise, sent for a learned Israelite. The king searched, inquired, and investigated carefully, and brought the sages together that they might argue about their respective religions. Each of them refuted, however, the arguments of his opponents, so they could not agree. When the king saw this, he said to them, "Go home, but return to me on the third day." On the third day, he called the sages together and said to them, "Speak and argue with one another, and make clear to me which is the best religion." They began to dispute with one another without arriving at any results, until the king said to the Christian priest, "What do you think of the religion of the Jews and the Muslims, which is to be preferred?" The priest answered, "The religion of the Israelites is better than that of the Muslims." The king then asked the Qadi, a Muslim judge and scholar, "What do you say? Is the religion of the Israelites or that of the Christians preferable?" The Qadi answered, "The religion of the Israelites is preferable." And that's funny. And so he pitted them together against each other, so to speak, whatever. It says, upon this, the king said, "If this is so, you both have admitted with your own mouths that the religion of the Israelites is better. Wherefore, trusting in the mercies of God and the power of the Almighty, I choose the religion of Israel. That is the religion of Abraham. If that God in whom I trust and in the shadow of whose wings I find refuge will aid me, he can give me without labor the money, the gold, and the silver which you have promised me. As for you all, go now in peace to your land." This account of Bulan's conversion is apparently legendary. Another Hebrew source tells us that Judaism was adopted by Khazars when a Jewish general was made king. Jewish fugitives from Constantinople also made many converts in Khazaria. From that time on, Almighty helped Bulan, fortified him, and strengthened him. He circumcised himself, his servants, and attendants, and all his people. Arabic sources said the royal family and nobility became Jews, but only a part of the people. Then Bulan sent for and brought from all places wise men of Israel who interpreted the Torah for him. So let me stop right here real quick, Avery, because how is he sending for other Israelites to teach him the Torah and get a culture, so to speak, if the Khazarians are the main impetus for modern Jewry? I'm confused. I'm confused here.
I don't know either, bro.
It doesn't make any damn sense, right?
No.
Anyway, he says Bulan sent for and brought from all places wise men of Israel who interpreted the Torah for him and arranged the precepts in order. And up to this very day, we have been subject to this religion. May God's name be blessed, and may his remembrance be exalted forever. Since that day, about 740, when my fathers entered into this religion, the God of Israel has humbled all of their enemies, subjecting every folk and tongue around about them, whether Christian, Muslim, or pagan. No one has been able to stand before them to this day, about 960. All of them tributary, but only about 10 years later, Joseph was defeated by the Russians, 969. It says, after the days of Bulan, there arose one of his descendants, a king, Obadiah by name, who reorganized the kingdom and established the Jewish religion properly and correctly. He built synagogues and schools, brought in Jewish scholars, rewarded them with gold and silver. The Jewish scholars could have come from Baghdad and Constantinople. How do they get Jewish scholars? Somebody in the chat tell me how they get Jewish scholars if all the Jews come from Khazaria. Anyway, they explained to him the Bible, Mishnah, Talmud, and the order of divine services. The king was a man who revered and loved the Torah. He was one of the true servants of God, made a divine spirit give him rest. He was succeeded by Hezekiah, his son. Next to him was Manasseh, his son. Next to him, Hanukkah, the brother of Obadiah. Next, Isaac, his son. Afterwards, his son Zebulun. Then his son Moses. Then his son Nisi. Then his son Aaron. Then his son Menahem. And his son Benjamin. And his son Aaron II, the first. Joseph, the son of Aaron the king. I am king, the son of a king, and descendant of kings. These kings probably had Turkish names beside their Hebrew ones. No stranger can occupy the throne of my ancestors. The son succeeds the father. This has been our custom and the custom of our forefathers since they have come into existence. May it be the gracious will of him who appoints all kings that the throne of my kingdom shall endure to all eternity. You have also asked me about the affairs of my country and the extent of my empire. I wish to inform you that I dwell by the banks of the river known as the Yatil of Volga. At the mouth of the river lies the Caspian Sea. The headwaters of the river turn eastward, a journey of 4 months' distance. Alongside the river dwell many tribes and cities and towns, and open as well as fortified places. Bear in mind that I dwell in the delta of the Yatil, and by God's help, I guard the mouth of the river and do not permit the Russians who come in ships to enter into the Caspian so as to get at the Muslims. Nor do I allow any of their Muslim enemies who come by land to penetrate as far as the Durban, an Arab city where was the gate through which the nomads of Russia hoped to rush through and raid the rich towns of Asia Minor. I have to wage war with them, for if I would give them any chance at all, they would lay waste the whole land of the Muslims as far as Baghdad. You have also asked me about the place where I live. I wish to inform you that by the grace of God, I dwell alongside the river on which there are situated 3 capital cities. The queen dwells in one of them. It is my birthplace. It is quite large, built round like a circle in diameter, of which is 50 parsecs. The king lived on the island in Volga. There were also towns on both banks. Jews, Christians, and Muslims live in the second city. Besides these, there are many slaves of all nations in it. It is a medium size, 8 square parsecs in length and breadth. In the third, I reside with my princes, officers, servants, cupbearers, and those who are close to me. It is round in shape, and its diameter is 3 parsecs. Rivers flow within the walls. This is my residence during the winter, from the month of Nisan, March, April, on. We leave the city, and each one goes forth to its vineyards, fields, and to his work. You mentioned in your letter that you yearn to see my face. I also would very much like to see your pleasant countenance and the rare beauty of your wisdom and greatness. Would that it were according to your word, if it were granted to me to be associated with you and to behold your honor, charming, and pleasant countenance, then you will be my father and I your son. According to your command, will all my people be ruled, and according to your word and discreet counsel will I conduct my affairs. Farewell. So that's an actual document that was written during that time that corresponds between a Jew in Spain and the converted king of Khazaria. No animosity, there was no hatred. There was a lot of love being given on both sides, and the message was sent by a Jew from Germany. So again, you had Jews that existed outside of Khazaria during the time of Khazaria, which doesn't make any damn sense according to Black Hebrew Israelites, because they believe all Jews today come from Khazaria, which is idiotic. Anyway.
I know I'm giving a lot of history, but it's all important.
He's getting that ad revenue.
Now, real quick, before I go any further about this conversion, I want to make something clear. This conversion is not based on someone's opinion. This is not speculation. It is, in fact, well documented. There are primary sources that anyone can seek out for themselves in order to understand this clearly. There are Khazar documents such as the reply of King Joseph, called the Schechter letter, also called the Cambridge document, and the Kievan letter. There are reports from Arab and Persian historians, travelers, and commentators, like the writings from Ahmad Fadlan, Abu Ishaq Ibrahim, or Muhammad al-Farisi al-Ishqari, and Al-Jabbar Muhammad al-Hamadani. I know I might be butchering these names. There is the Persian treatise known as Denkart, and many other sources. Just look these sources up yourself. It speaks about the conversion of the Khazars. So this is not some opinion. All you need to do is actually do the research. But just note that even without these sources, you have a group of people named Khazars who are actually nomadic Turks, not Hebrews. who reside in this area of Eastern Europe, the exact place where most of the Jews in Israel today come from. This is no coincidence, but we will keep going. Coastal writes, Khazaria was a relatively civilized country among the barbarians of the north, yet not committed to either of the militant creeds. And so it became a natural haven for the periodic exodus of Jews under Byzantine rule, threatened by forced conversion and other pressures. Persecution in varied forms had started with Justinian I, 527 to 65, and assumed particularly vicious forms under Heraclius in the 7th century, Leo III in the 8th, Basil and Leo IV in the 9th, Romanus in the 10th. You see, the true Yahudim were being persecuted in that area as well. You see, this is their history. As they were continuously being persecuted, they were continuously scattering. This is a part of the prophecy of the scattering. Yah was going to move the true Yahudim and scatter them all around the world. This is all a part of that prophecy. You see, they would find no rest. So they kept searching and seeking for some kind of place of refuge. Particularly in the Understanding Israel series, I went over this history very often. The true Yahudim never really caught a break, and they were continuously pressured to convert to Christianity, or they were persecuted. This third force of Khazaria became a place of refuge for them. Leo III, who ruled the Byzantine Empire during the 2 decades immediately before the Khazars converted to Judaism, he attempted to end the tolerated status of Jews by ordering all his Jewish subjects to be baptized. Now, history notes that the implementation of the order seemed to have been rather ineffective, but it led to the flight of a considerable number of Yahudim from Byzantium. The only mercy shown by history to the Yahudim who took flight or were driven to it was the existence of Khazaria, both before and after the conversion. So let's discuss the conversion. The conversion to Judaism. In al-Bakri's Book of Kingdoms and Roads, 11th century, I referenced him in part 8 of the Understanding Israel series. In his book, he writes, the reason for the conversion to Judaism of the king of the Khazars, who had previously been a pagan, is as follows. He had adopted Christianity. Then he recognized its falsehood and discussed this matter, which greatly worried him, with one of his high officials. The latter said to him, O king, those in possession of sacred scriptures fall into 3 groups. Summon them and ask them to state their case. Then follow the one who is in possession of the truth. So he sent to the Christians for a bishop. Now there was with the king a Jew, skilled in argument, who engaged him in disputation. He asked the bishop, what do you say of Moses, the son of Amram, and the Torah which was revealed to him? The bishop replied, Moses is a prophet, and the Torah speaks the truth. Then the Jew said to the king, he has already admitted the truth of my creed. Ask him now what he believes in. So the king asked him, and he replied, I say that Jesus, the Messiah, is the son of Mary. He is the Word, and he has revealed the mysteries in the name of God. Then said the Jew to the king of the Khazars, he preaches a doctrine which I know not, while he accepts.
So you don't have to play the whole video if you don't
but
want
the bishop
to.
was not strong in producing
I was
evidence.
enjoying the animation.
Then the king asked for a Muslim, and they sent him a scholarly, clever man who was good at arguments. But the Jew hired someone who poisoned him on the journey, and he died. And the Jew succeeded in winning the king for the faith, so that he embraced Judaism. And that's from al-Bakri. That account seems biased, but okay.
It is
His account.
he got him poisoned.
The next account we can look to comes from the Khazar correspondence, which is an exchange of letters in Hebrew between Hasdai Shaprut, the Jewish chief minister of the Caliph of Cordoba,
Yeah, I wrote
and Joseph,
that.
king of the Khazars, or rather, between their respective scribes. According to his own account, Hasdai first heard of the existence of an independent Jewish kingdom from some merchant traders from Khorasan in Persia, but he doubted the truth of this story. Later, he questioned the members of a Byzantine diplomatic mission to Cordoba, and they confirmed the merchant's account, contributing a considerable amount of factual detail about the Khazar kingdom, including the name Joseph of its present king. Thereupon, Hasdai decided to send couriers with a letter to King Joseph. The letter contains a list of questions about the Khazar state, its people, method of government, armed forces, and so on. including an inquiry to which of the 12 tribes Joseph belonged. This seems to indicate that Hasdai thought the Jewish Khazars to hail actually from Israel, as the Spanish Yahudim did, and perhaps to even represent one of the scattered tribes. Joseph, not being of Jewish descent, belonged, of course, to none of the tribes. In his reply to Hasdai, he provides, as we shall see, a genealogy of a different kind. But his main concern is to give Hasdai a detailed, if legendary, account of the conversion, which took place 2 centuries earlier, and the circumstances that led to it. Joseph's narrative starts with a eulogy of his ancestor, King Bulan, a great conqueror and a wise man who drove out the sorcerers and idolaters from his...
Why didn't he mention that he was Japheth? That he said he was Japheth? Oh, I forgot, because you want to say that they're Edom. He would have pushed the Edom shit. He said earlier, this has something to do with Edom. But yeah, we can move on from this. We already read this.
Yeah, we can stop with this video. There's one more I want you to play, but you don't have to play the whole thing. It's just 1 minute, and I want to get your opinion
Welcome
on
to
this
the
1 minute
Truth
segment.
Unedited channel. This
What video?
It's part 4. We are not black people. Part 4. I want you to start at 21 minutes and 40 seconds, and only play, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 minutes of it. I want to get your thoughts on this segment.
White privilege is a racist myth that is rooted in bigotry, trying to classify people based on their skin color. If you are a racist, you have something to apologize for.
So
21 minutes and 40
the
seconds.
world was divided before race was created. The descendants of Japheth. Okay, so you should be... whole world is manipulated and conditioned to see through modern eyes that all this information of just going over 2 out of the 3 sons of Noah, all this information
Is that
about
at 21?
was divided,
21
and who we
minutes?
all descend from. Please think about how ignorant it is to just identify someone by their skin color.
40
As
seconds.
ignorant as defining someone by their nose. Imagine us saying pointy nose or flat nose. Who they just want us to consider ourselves as black or Afro, whatever.
Now listen to this.
We still don't know who we are, even with this knowledge, because our history was stolen from us. But education and research can change all of that. And I am not talking about that fake education everyone has that makes them feel smart while they're dumb as a brick. I don't care about your stupid degrees from your oppressors. I'm talking about self-education that is done independently away from the mainstream. Everything that you're taught in these institutions is created to keep you dumb and unaware and without knowledge of self.
I don't know. I think everything you teaching us is dumbing us down. Everything you made is like Hanna-Barbera got better narratives than you, man. That's a cartoon creator in the States. Listen, man, you just made up a bunch of history out of thin air. Well, not actually out of thin air. You got it from other Black Hebrew Israelites before you. You think that African Americans derive their main source of ancestry from Sephardic Jews. You think that modern Jewry all derive their ancestors from Khazaria, even though you explained that you understood about the correspondence between Hasdai, which was a Spanish Jew, which would mean you would understand that letter was transmitted or transported by a German Jew. So there's Jews in Spain and Jews in Germany during the Khazarian reign. But let me guess, you're going to say, oh, we are those Jews. Okay, if your ancestors are those Jews, they were excited and ecstatic about the Khazarians converting over to Judaism. So that don't even make no damn sense. Everything this dude says is just Harry Potter and Pixar.
And it's funny, he doesn't want quote unquote black people to get an education. We ought to all just listen to him and his information. He has the truth.
Right.
Folks need to stop going to college and stop going to these institutions that our oppressors, gave us, and just listen to him. That kind of sounds like a cult.
That's exactly what a cult is. It's a scam line. It's all these dudes is scamming y'all. Don't go to school. Come listen to me. Don't learn nothing from nobody else. Don't question anything. Everything you've been taught, a lie. Come to me. I have the truth.
I have the secret knowledge.
All right, let's go to part 6.
Welcome to the Truth Unedited channel.
I want to go to part 6 real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
If we are not Black people, who are we?
That's a great point. That is a great point. That oppressive talk does come from Karl Marx, because he believed there's only two type of people: oppressed and oppressors. That's all it is. Oh, we're all oppressed. Negro, you are not oppressed. You got your little fancy mic and your little studio and your damn YouTube revenue coming in. Ain't nothing oppressed about you. You're not being treated unfairly. You're equal to everyone else. Basically, no one's throwing the book at you. You know, you're on YouTube spreading this garbage. You're free to do that. Like, there's nothing oppressed about your life. You probably live a very comfortable life, air-conditioned home. You know, your kids probably go to a nice school. Like, stop it, man. You don't know what starving means. You eat just because you want to eat, not because of a necessity. Probably wear name brand clothes. Ain't nothing oppressed about you, bro. I really y'all should just get dropped off into a third world country where people actually get treated unfairly. Like, and just live there.
Gaza.
Go to Gaza. Go to any of these places. Go to Palestine, Lebanon. Go to a third world country in Africa. Go to South America. You want to go to Venezuela. And that way you can learn by experience what oppression looks like. Anyway.
Shoot.
What?
You got the white man side you. Scratch that, the Arab man. The white Arab.
If we are not Black people, who are we? Here's another pseudo video by Truth Unedited.
Okay, so you should be coming from part 5 of this series. These videos are a part of a docu-series and should be watched from the beginning in order if you're going to understand what is being presented. So please, if you have not watched parts 1 through 5, please stop this video.
Please stop this video. You have to be properly indoctrinated. Watch it in order, in sequential order. That's the only way you're going to get indoctrinated.
Oh, I can't watch this video, Jashu, but I haven't seen this part 5 yet. Dang. I have to catch you on the flip side, bro.
Yeah.
And start back from video 1 and watch them consecutively for true context. Okay, well, like I've been saying through parts 1 through 5, we are not Black people. But through these last 5 parts, we have not proved this. I was just laying the foundation to the answer. In the last 3 parts, we went through how the world was divided before race and skin color. And at the simplest dividing factor, we saw that the world is divided between 3 different people. The 3 sons of Noah, which are Ham, Japheth, and Shem. And we went through a lot of history about the peoples of this world. But we never actually got to where we, who are simply called Black people, where do we fit into all of this? In this research, we saw that 2 out of the 3 sons of Noah have heritage that could be labeled as Black people. But this is definitely not proving anything. There needs to be more understanding. And so before I simply go into stating who it is that we are, I think it is important to answer this question by doing some reverse engineering of history. Basically backtracking our steps. So what I'm going to do is share some history with you that is not the mainstream history that they have taught you in the schools. And from this, it can bring more clarity on who it is that we are. So listen, first thing, I want to be clear, and I should have made this clear before. I am not only speaking to people in the United States, but like I also said in these videos, I'm not only talking to people classified as Black people or darker skinned people, because not all of us share the same heritage. There are many of you in Africa that I'm talking to, yes, but your history is quite different. So in this video, I will not be reverse engineering that part of the history. For instance, I'm definitely speaking to the people in the parts of Nigeria and Ghana. Not all, but definitely some of you. And I absolutely am addressing those in South Africa, including the areas of Angola and the Congo, Namibia, parts of Tanzania and Kenya, you are all there scattered within. And just because I didn't call out your country, that does not mean I'm not speaking to you. You are all there scattered within. But I cannot address your history in this because the reverse engineering of your history is a little different from you than ours with the transatlantic slave trade. I will get to your history, just not in this segment. Either way, who I am addressing right now, specifically, are you who are the descendants of family who was taken in the transatlantic slave trade.
Reed, this is the circular reasoning here. So I'm not talking to everybody that's black. Right? He established that, and he said he's not. He's specifically speaking to people who are the descendants of families who was taken in the transatlantic slave trade. So how does he determine that? How is he determining who is a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade?
One, skin color.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm not going off of black, or if you call dark skin. I'm talking specifically to the descendants of the family who was taken into the transatlantic slave trade. And how does he determine that? If they black. This is a fucking circular ass argument, bro. Anyway.
Two,
those of you who
the curses.
The curses, yeah.
Are in the United States,
which they can't prove any of these people are descendants of somebody that got cursed or got put on a slave ship according to them. How are they proving that? Again, you don't have a time machine to see that their ancestors actually went on a damn slave ship. You're assuming that because they're black. This is the idiocy of this damn BHI code. Go ahead, Avery.
By the way, somebody asked a very good question in the comments. Has this guy cited any DNA studies? No, he has not. But Jashub has cited how many DNA studies? You've cited at least, I think, 3+, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I cited. I mentioned one and I read 2 on stream.
Yeah, so we've definitely cited DNA studies, but not Truth Unedited. Not him. For the most part, he gave us, I think, one book and everything else was just his own thought process and
his own domain expansion.
his own commentary. He's offered us his commentary. So
Palermo, that's a great point. He said there was a study on the Gullah peoples of South Carolina. They had 95% West African DNA and clustered with modern peoples in Senegal very closely and managed to retain some of the language. Yeah, we understand the Gullah people, but he would say that the people that sold Africans to the Americas are actually Hamite. They're actually different people. But how is that the case if 95% of their DNA is West African? They cluster with them. This is why they don't cite DNA papers, because it explodes in the face of a damn pseudo.
Like a nuclear bomb.
The Caribbean, and also South America. This includes you Jamaicans who were later taken to England when they opened up access to you in the 60s. I'm talking to those of you of the Windrush generation. All of you are who I am talking to. Those who are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. Again, those in Africa and in Europe and Asia, I am talking to you as well. I just am not dealing with your specific history yet. I hope that makes sense. It is all of us who are labeled Black people by the world while we don't know who we descend from. In America, they call us African Americans. In the Caribbean, we just go by the island that we come from. In South America, they call you Afro-Brazilians or Afro-Venezuelans or Afro-Colombians, etc. You know, for many of us in the United States, many don't actually know that the same troubles that we have had in the United States, you all face the same struggles in your country. The world system all calls us Black people, but they also label us Afro whatever, which doesn't mean very much except that they say that we are taken from Africa. All of us within these 2 continents and islands that descend from slavery all descend from the same heritage, and we are from the same people. We are not Black people. Now, to prove this to you, like I said, I'm going to be doing some reverse engineering of history. So let's get to it. So this is where we will start. We are in North and South America and the islands of the Caribbean. By the way, this does include Cuba. All of us should know that our ancestors did not originate here. What I'm saying is that wherever you are is not your land, and you do not have any rights or history with this land that you live in now.
Bullshit. What? Who told you that? Why do y'all think like that? This is not your land. You have no history or rights in the land. Yes, we do. We got a long history in America. Since the inception of America, Africans have a long history here. What are you talking about?
Generations out of generations of our ancestors are buried in the dirt of this land.
Right.
We have ancestors that literally spilled blood in this land.
Spilled blood in this land as part of the fabric of the society. We're 50 million strong in North America, not mentioning Central and South America and the islands. Like, this dude is insane. He said, this is not your land. You don't have rights. He said you don't have a history of rights. This is some racist Nazi agenda right here. This is some racial hygiene stuff for you, bro. That's what I'm saying. Y'all speak in the same vein as Woodrow Wilson, Edward Clark, all of these guys that had these ideas of white supremacy and keeping America white. Like, y'all sound just like them. This ain't your land. You don't have no rights. And what are you basing this off of? Oh, you're a slave because you're black. You black, you are a descendant of a slave. You don't have no lands. What about all the African Americans that descend actually from indigenous Americans? We gonna tell them they ain't got no rights? They're not from here. They ain't got no history here. It was here before Columbus. It was here before the colonial period. Like our brother Moore, his mother's mother is an indigenous American. How do we know this? Through DNA. Y'all hate DNA because y'all want to play the race game. You keep saying we're not black, but you using black to cement all of your arguments. That was a crazy ass statement, but all I do is expect crazy from crazy motherfuckers like y'all. Wow, that's crazy. Just because you have a certain skin color or a certain racial category that you fall in, now you don't have rights and you don't have history in the damn land. We've all been in, fought wars in. Our parents went to school here, grew up here, built homes here, built communities here. Y'all check these cult leaders, man. What the hell wrong with them?
That's why they never want to accept debates.
Yeah, never want to debate.
But over the time, throughout our generations, the governments and the system have worked to assimilate us in. So basically, after they enslaved our ancestors and then gave some fake type of freedom that was tied to cruel oppression that they labeled about our skin color, they then tried to assimilate us. The slave trade ended at different points in time, depending on where you were. But for the most part, it ended in the 19th century, around the year 1830. But again, it's different depending on where you were. I'm speaking specifically about the slave trade. That's the gathering of slaves from Africa and bringing them to these locations, not the ending of forced-free labor, just to be clear. Anyways, I'm not going to discuss slavery, but just that this is the starting point of where we are going to reverse engineer this history from. So we see these locations right here: the United States, the Caribbean, and all areas of South America. All of us that were taken to these locations came in slave ships. So what we'll do is reverse history and go backwards in time and take these slave ships back to where they came from and started from. When we do this, we get to this area right here, the Slave Coast in the area of Guinea. Now, what I'm going to do is go back to information I introduced in part 1, but I promised that I would get to. In part 1, I mentioned the slave maps. So now in our reverse engineering of history, it's time that we can go back to them. So understand, please, that this is not an easy subject to break down. If it was, you would have heard all of this before. But I'm going to do my best to make a difficult subject easier to digest. I'm going to start here. Here are 3 maps. They are all maps from the 18th century. This one is from 1747, charted by Amon Bowen. This is a full map, and this one is more zoomed in on the area that I will focus on. Amon Bowen was a royal map maker to both King George II of Great Britain, and Louis XV of France. His maps aren't in English, which for us, it helps greatly. Then there is this map from 1737 from Johann Matthias Hase. He was a German mathematician, astronomer, and cartographer. A cartographer means a professional who makes maps to communicate spatial information. He's a map maker. This is his map. And then we have this map from 1710 from Hermann Moll. He was a German-born English map maker known for a number of influential maps. So we have these three maps right here. These are three slave maps from the 18th century documented in Africa. One from 1747, one from 1737, and another from 1710. Now, I have placed these maps on my website for everyone to be able to have access to them and download them for yourself. If you're subscribed to my website, you should have received an email. For anyone else, the link is in the description box. These maps are an important part of understanding our history that was taken from us. So I encourage you to review them on your own. What I first want to do is highlight this region right here. This section along the coast is called Guinea. It is on all three maps. On Hermann Moll's map, above Guinea, he writes this: I am credibly informed that ye country about 100 leagues north of the coast of Guinea is inhabited by white men, or at least a different kind of people from the blacks, who wear clothes and have ye use of letters, made silk, and that some of them keep the Christian Sabbath. So what he's saying is that this area of Guinea is colonized land of the Europeans, and it is still to this day. It is not controlled by the African people, but by the colonizers. This area of Guinea is conquered land of Africa that was used for trade. If you notice, it's broken down by what was traded. There was the grain coast, the ivory coast, which we still know it as today. There's the gold coast, and then the slave coast. You can understand by their names what was traded in those regions. Now, there is an interesting point about the slave coast, but I will try to get back to it later. Just note that the slave coast is one point where the slaves were put into ships to send to the Americas and the Caribbean. What I'm explaining first is that this area is conquered territory. That's what I want you to get. I will not go over the history of Guinea in this video, but just know that the European colonizers began to trade and make arrangements and deals with the Hamites of Africa. They knew the difference, and they did not come.
Y'all heard that? They began to trade and make deals with the Hamites of Africa. No. You falsifying history right here. You are a fraud. Trying to claim everybody else is a fraud. You just made a claim that the people that were making, first of all, you said it was already taken over. And no, it wasn't. The Europeans had to work with the Africans. You know that, to start selling Africans, right? Yeah, I know. More, it's silly. Come on, it's simple shit like that. I guess my people didn't come and sit again. You don't even mention that. Watch where you say black people come from. Watch where you say black people come from. What the source of slaves were. Also, but touching on this Hamite claim, bro, this is crazy. The people that were selling Africans were Africans themselves, and they were not like some disparate group. They were selling people that they were genetically related to. How do we know this? How do we know this? All we gotta do is look at the PCA chart between African Americans and Africans. Somebody already brought it up. We match pretty well with those people. Also, the bones of that time, they match with what we know as a Yoruba, Igbo, Ghanaians. They match. They're genetically the same people. We have some of the same patron and matron as well. To sit up here and try to make, they're different people because y'all got in your brain that in order for somebody to sell somebody into slavery, because we used to teach this in IUIC, why would somebody sell their own people? People have been doing it since time immemorial. The Bible talks about Joseph being sold by his goddamn brothers. So that never made sense. Go ahead, Avery.
By the way, I don't know if he says it in this video, but I do know he says it in another video. But he believes that the Mandinka people in the Mali Empire are the Hamites, but the Songhai are the Israelites.
Yes, he brings it up. He brings it up here. Yes.
Okay, it's this video. Yeah. So yeah, Mandinka people and Songhai people, Songhai is Shem, Songhai is Israelites, Mandinka is Hamites. But genetically speaking, Songhai and Mandinka aren't really that different, not entirely. Like, sure, Songhai, you might be able to, make the argument that Songhai are more of a Nilo-Saharan extraction, but still, and the Mandinka are more of a Niger-Congo extraction, but still, all these Sahelian groups in that area of Mali and Senegambia are relatively pretty similar. Yeah, more. Yeah, more. He says that the Mandinka are the Hamites, and the Mali Empire is Ham, but Songhai is an Israelite kingdom, and that is who we are. We should call ourselves Songhai people.
Yep.
But yeah, wild stuff.
And the Songhai would have been way more diverse as far as like it had Eurasian, Eastern African elements than the Malink.
I mean, Songhai is literally Nilo-Saharan, so yeah, like the language family.
Yeah, you cooked, bro. You cooked. You like, come on, man. Silly.
Come to Africa for them. If you ever watch movies like The Woman King, you see that the African king made deals with the European colonizers, which they traded slaves for silk and other fine goods. This is just an accurate depiction of history. What I'm saying is that the European colonizers knew the difference of who they were looking for, and they did not come to Africa for the Hamites. I have this book called The Slave Trade by Hugh Thomas. It's a very extensive, well-documented
I have that book too.
On page 45, he writes this. The racial mixture in West Africa was interesting. Before the Arab invasions, the land was principally inhabited by two peoples. In the northwest, the Hamites, called Libyans or Barbary by the Romans, or Berbers by the
He
Arabs.
doesn't even.
The word actually deriving from Barbary. And black people to the south of the desert. All the same, the Berbers.
All right, so let me explain this real quick. Why this was put in Hugh Thomas's book. Important is this is from the Hamitic hypothesis. The Hamitic hypothesis will say those that are Hamites. You guys don't even teach it right. Those that are Hamites are those that have the Caucasian features. That they may be dark, but they have the aquiline nose, jaw structure, everything that would be considered quote unquote Caucasian. They were just dark, and everyone, and they were civilized. They were known to be civilized and wear clothes or whatever, right? The other Africans that were had more robust features, wide nose, big lips, and everything. Those were not even considered to be sons of Noah. Those would be considered pretty much beasts of the field.
Pre-Adamites and stuff, yeah.
Adamites, yeah. So that's why they would call like Berbers and even some Fulanis and
East Africans.
East African, they would call them Hamites because their skull structure.
Yeah, Caucasoid Africans are Hamites, and those that speak the Hemito-Semitic language. Before it was reclassified as Afro-Asiatic back in the day, it was called Hemito-Semitic, and those people who spoke those languages are the true Hamites, the Caucasoid Africans, the Afro-Asiatic speakers, or the Hemito-Semitic speakers.
Right. It has nothing to do with, they knew that they were the sons of this guy that was named Ham how many times, 6,000 years ago, whatever time frame y'all put on Noah. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with this racial schema that they had drawn up in that time, where they would say Ham would be these Caucasoid Africans.
Yep.
He's taking it to mean, that means that they knew that they were the biblical sons of Ham. Okay, if you're going to go off the Hamitic hypothesis, use the rest of it. Everybody else are pre-Adamites. And they use that to justify slavery, by the way.
Yep. And here's the kicker, though. He's talking about the Berbers being Hamites and the inhabitants of North Africa. Like, most Berbers carry haplogroup E, specifically E-81. And they're just as much related to people south of them in West Africa, West Central Africa, as they are to people east of them in Eastern Africa. So it's like, he's trying to make this differentiation between these two groups, not even knowing that paternally speaking, Berbers and West Africans share the exact same forefather, EP2, and various other forefathers after EP2, like EP177 and EP147 and EM96. So it's like, bro, them North African Berber Hamites are your kinfolk, bro.
That's a fact. And also, many of the major players, we read the books, the sources on the channel already. The major players in the slave trade were not Berbers. They were just that's just not the case. It was these coastal tribes. We brought it up, the coastal kingdoms that were going inland and raiding and capturing other tribes and bringing them in. And then when that wasn't enough, they greedy ass would go into their own damn neighborhoods and their own communities and rob and take people. So I'm telling you, it's literally people stealing their own people and selling them into slavery. And the Europeans described it that they kept the coast full of boats and human cargo. That's what these tribes. I'll pull up one of the sources. I read a plethora of sources. I did a video recently this year talking about Africans selling themselves, selling their own people. This wasn't Berbers. This wasn't people from Morocco. These were the locals in Nigeria, the locals in Guinea, the locals in Senegambia establishing this, and they worked hand in hand with the Christian powers at that time, the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the Dutch. They worked hand in hand with them. And even after the slave trade was abolished, they still were selling slaves illegally. And they had their own plantations over there. They had their own farms that were being worked by the slaves. That's a fact.
Just shoot. You got the white Arab man inside you, bro.
Yeah. So this whole idea that Hamites or the people that sold us, no. You are telling a lie. You are spreading misinformation and disinformation. That's not how it happened. That's not what happened. And that's why you got to be wary of people that say, don't go to school, don't follow them. They lied to you. Come to me. It always ends up in this conversation of slavery. Conversation of just distortion of history from start to finish. So let me get this book real quick, man. The Jews in the American Slave Trade. And, in this book, chapter 16 talks about myth making and Afrocentrism. Because again, people ignore, like, here's a kingdom here, the Dahomey, the Borno kings, so on and so forth. Let me just get some quick highlights out of this one. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Or I can just read this first part real quick. It says, the fable requires distortion, selective memory, and denial. And that's exactly what we're dealing with. Distortion, selective memory, and denial. You're denying that much of what we know of the slave trade, the human cargo that was gathered, was by the locals themselves. It was not an outside force. It was the locals themselves. They got very rich off of it. It said the accusation of Jewish domination of slave trade must be understood within this framework. Somehow the myth makers omit mention of African participation in the slave trade. No legitimate scholar disputes the existence of slaves in African societies before the arrival of European whites. Just as in ancient Greece or Rome, they came through capture and war, kidnapped, judicial decree, condemned because of witchcraft or debt slavery or inheritance. There is a debate over the actual treatment of Africans owned by other Africans since the 18th century when Aluda Akpiano renamed Gustavus Vassa left a memorial stressing how slaves were accepted into the family of their masters. So real quick, Africans already had a system of slavery. It was not a foreign concept. No, the white men, no, none of that. Nope, it was already going on before they got there, right? So a number of writers have stressed the positive aspects of African slavery. For the most part, house slaves, they were well treated, knew no racial antagonism, could even purchase their own freedom or become leaders in society. Other histories paint a different harsh picture of societies where recalcitrant slaves were subjected to seasoning, brutal regimens. Women were sexually assaulted, and slaves where deformities or defects might be offered to gods as human sacrifices. That's another dark history of West African slavery, that not only that they would just use you for free labor, they would actually sacrifice you to their gods. That's what they would do. They would do this to their own people now, people that they genetically related to. This is Patrick Manning even reports a folk legend, not true but told nonetheless, among the people of Benin, of slaves who were thrown into the sea and allowed to drown. Cowries would gnaw on their bodies, and afterward the body would be dredged up and cowries collected. The reality is that slavery in Africa was neither perpetual bliss nor torment, but as Peter Dunning and L.H. Gunn of the Hoover Institute have noted, subject of immense variation. The same might be said about the willingness of Africans to admonish other Africans to Europeans. At various times, rulers of the Jolof, the Asante, the Oyo, the Benin, and Congo opposed to export of their kinsmen. Inevitably, though, avarice won out, meaning greed won out. They're like, we're making, come on, man, these other dudes doing it, they making guap. We about to get on the train and start selling these people. We already got the slave system here. Might as well go ahead and make this bread. That's what happened, right? It says, as LaRon Bennett puts it, the slave trade was not merely a bishop in the Congo baptizing those in chains or a mother clinging desperately to her child. It was also a greedy king. Listen to this, a greedy king raiding his own villages to get slaves to buy brandy. This is the true history of slavery. You guys keep trying to distort this. Oh, outside group, the Hamites came and they captured us. No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Let me read that again. It says, a greedy king raiding his own villages to get slaves to buy brandy. When the first European slave traders arrived, African chieftains were not only willing, but eager to trade captives for guns, textile, tobacco, salt, jewelry, iron, kitchenware, and money, going so far as to campaign against rival tribes in the interior. According to the 18th century observers, some kings were so avid for European merchandise, they even attacked their own villages in the night. Their own villages in the night. They were selling their own people, man. Y'all keep trying to tell these fairy tales, this Pixar, Disney, Nickelodeon Junior version of history. That's why I'm glad the writer of this book put it plainly. He said the fable requires distortion, selective memory, and denial. And that's all y'all do. That's what Truth Unedited is doing in this video. It said, what many calls an addiction and socially rational, if inhuman activity, seduced the people of Mali and Songhai, the Borno kings and Yoruba land, the rulers of the Dahomey, and even the Oyos, as Claude Malasol has written, in Senegambia, in Dahomey, in Segu, and Maori country, in Ansuru, and so on, or wherever such wars were waged, the armies went into the field every year, sometimes more often, to capture the two-leg cattle, which was to supply the kingdoms, the markets, or the dealers. The trade provided so lucrative that at one point slave blacks outnumbered free in the Niger Valley by 3-1. The very first Portuguese slaver, Anton Goncalves, who visited the coast between 1441 to 48, noted that Chief Ahude Mamam was eager to barter 9 blacks and a little gold dust for things of little value. In 1620, Richard Jobson reported on the exploitation of blacks by blacks on the Gambia River. They, the Portuguese and mulattoes, do generally employ themselves in buying such commodities the country affords, or especially they covet the country people who are sold unto them when they commit offenses, all which things they are ready to vent unto such coming to the river. But the black people are brought away by their own nation, and by them either carried or sold unto the Spaniard, or him to carry into the West Indies to remain as slaves, either in their minds or at other servile uses they in those countries put them to. A few decades later, circa 1682, John Barbeau Agent of the French Royal Graphic Company reported how common blacks and kings in Guinea sold not only prisoners of war, but their own countrymen, their own children, kindred, or neighbors. Those who came from outside the tribal territories were generally poor and weak by reason of the barbarous usage they had in traveling far, being continued beaten and almost famished. So inhuman are the blacks to one another. Pierre Verger describes Agaja, the king of Dahomey between 1733 and 1740, as a kind of slaving genius who conquered rival tribes of Mahi, Bogari, and Judah, and then demanded more substantial payments from the Portuguese. The Journal of slaver turned abolitionist John Newton is also punctuated with references to combinations of slaves 2, 6, 8 at a time, brought to him in November 1750 by the African Prince William Ansah Sanaranku, or the King of China, or the powerful mulatto Henry Tucker. If such slaves were rejected by the European traders because of health or other reasons, they were murdered on the spot. This is the reality of slavery. Nobody wants to talk about this. They were selling their own people. They were raiding their own community, their own villages to supply the demand. This is what was going on. This whole made up, everybody's against us. Nope, that's not what happened. Yeah. Distorting history, man.
Retain most of their individual characteristics. As highland tillers of the soil and lovers of freedom, they were rarely moved by religious enthusiasm and were able, on the whole, to preserve their purity of race. But in the South, there was much mixture. Thus, the people of Timbuktu had black skin, but much Berber blood. They thought of the black Songhai in the middle Niger Valley as savages. Remember that point. I highlight this excerpt to show that this information goes back to what I presented in parts 3 through 5. Understand, the world was not originally separated by skin color, but by tribes, and this was how the world was viewed. The Hamites had known regions. They were known in the northwest and the east. They were known as Libyans. These were the sons of Put. Then in the northeast, we already know Mizraim in Egypt. And then south, we have the people of Cush in Ethiopia. This land was all accounted for. This was the land given to them. If you look at these slave maps, it confirms this. But this land west, that's south of the Sahara, was land that was originally for Canaan. But Canaan did not take his land, but he occupied Israel's. And therefore, as they warned him, his people were displaced. Now, you see that upper part of Africa, it shows the Barbary, the barbarians, as the Greeks called them. Then you see Ethiopia. You see, the slavers, they knew the difference in the people and the lands that they occupied. These were their slave maps. But there was a territory that they knew of, and this is what we will focus on now.
$72 a month.
That's it.
But that's crazy.
How much are you paying for your auto insurance?
If you remember in part 1, I said I would much rather be called a Negro. I said that because with just a little research, we are able to go back and gain understanding of who we are. In these slave maps, there's a part of these maps that validate this statement. It's this land right here. It's called Negro land. They took the Negroes from Negro land, this land right here. It is in West Africa in the sub-Saharan region. So as we reverse engineer history, let's understand it clearly. We started here in the Americas and the Caribbean. And then going backwards, we head to Guinea, where the slaves were put on ships at the slave coast, which was right here. Now, if we keep going backwards in time, understanding these maps, the slaves, they were not taken from Guinea. This was the place of trade. This is where the Europeans set up their shop. This was their area. They noted it in their maps. So with that understanding,
That was a lie.
Yeah, I was about to say they didn't take folks from the coast. Like, are you serious, bro? And he said that so confidently.
Origins of Africans deported to the United States. I mean, it's very easy to See dispute here. You see where it says Gold Coast? That's in Guinea. You see where it says Bight of Benin? That's in Guinea. The Windward Coast. Then even outside of these regions, Sierra Leone, Senegambia, you see a lot of people come from Senegambia, Sierra Leone, the Windward Coast, the Gold Coast. You see a bunch of them. Bight of Benin, the Bight of Biafra. You see a bunch of people get taken from there. And then Western Central, you get a lot of people getting taken from there. And then you got some come from Southeast Africa as well. So he is emphatically incorrect. Emphatically incorrect. I don't know what the hell is he talking about right now.
Where do you think they got their Negro slaves from? Yeah, Negro land. The place of the people they call black people.
You see where Guinea is? Guinea. You see the Gold Coast, the Slave Coast, and it's called the Slave Coast. What the hell wrong with him? In Benin, slaves came from there. What the hell wrong with him? And also, newsflash, Guinea means black as well. Oh, no, of course they got it from Negro land. That's where the Negroes come from because it's called Negro land. The word Guinea. Oh, let me show you. Let me just pull it up real quick right here. Share this tab and blow it up. Guinea. A region along the west coast of Africa, presumably from the African word, perhaps Tuareg, Aganal, black people. That's what the word Guinea means. Literally means that. So even look at the word Negro. That means that's where all the Negroes come from. Negro, the word Guinea means black. Goofy. Just stupid, bro. Dumb shit. Saying.
Don't get educated in colleges, bro. Just listen to him.
Yeah, don't get a formal education. Just go to his channel. Anyway.
Negro means black. This is where they got their black people.
This is where they got their black people because it's called Negro land. But it's called black
area of Negro land that inhabited the people that were taken as slaves. Now, here's the interesting point of history, and this will show you how ineffective our education system really is. This land is not actually called Negro land. This is what the European slavers called it, but that's not actual history. This place and area does have a name, and it was known. It's just that the European slavers did not care. And if it were taught in our schools, it would be able to help answer questions instead of leaving us in the dark. Don't think that your schools and all this education didn't know. They just didn't tell us. And that part is personal to me because I graduated from an HBCU, Hampton University to be exact. And though I do brag and do believe that it is the best of all the HBCUs, I would not send my child there. It did not teach a thing about any of this. If we went to schools that were actually created for us and they don't even teach us this history, it is clear that our education was not meant to liberate us with knowledge, but to enslave us more with indoctrination. But that's another point for another day. My point is that you will not find this history taught in schools, and it absolutely should be.
Nigga, all you've been doing is indoctrinating. That's all you're doing.
The next part of history I'm about to go into brings about a great deal of answers. So let's take this area of what they call Negro land and see what it was before the colonizers rounded up their slaves from it. Now, please note, I do go into greater detail of this information in my video series about understanding Israel, if you ever want to dive into this.
Pause real quick.
But
now this part right here that he's about to say, that he claims that isn't taught in colleges and isn't taught in schools, is literally taught in schools. You're about to see here in a second. The particular, I guess, say people and kingdoms that lived in that area of quote unquote Negro land. Like it's literally not a mystery.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like, bro. I literally took a class this summer that talked about the Songhai Empire. Anyways,
right. Good. And making this as simple as possible, I'm only hovering over this information. Just so you know, if you want to watch the video, the link is in the description box. Anyways, this area that was called Negro land is called the Songhai Empire. The Songhai people themselves were farmers, fishermen, hunters, craftsmen, traders, and warriors. They were a confederation of people who came to dominate the middle Niger around the region of Dendi. This area right here is the area of the Songhai Empire before it was taken down. The territory of the land that the slavers labeled Negro land was the territory and land of the Songhai Empire. Write it down, Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire was an empire that dominated the Western Sudan in the 15th and 16th century. It replaced Mali as the most important empire in West Africa. This was after the time of the decline of Mansa Musa's empire of Mali in the year 1350 AD. The Songhai Empire began with Soni Ali I. So let's get a quick summary here. Let's understand one thing very clearly from this point right now. The people that were taken in the transatlantic slave trade, you are not black people. At the most basic level, you are Negroes that were taken from what the slavers labeled Negro land. But this land was actually the Songhai Empire. So right now, you can say you are from the Songhai people. So you do have an identity, and it's not just black people. But we will go further. So when you review this people of the Songhai, the Hamites of Africa, they absolutely rejected this people. They called them savages, as I just read from that quote earlier from Hugh Thomas's book, The Slave Trade. So you know how they say that our own people sold us into slavery? That is not true. That is only looking at it from a perspective of skin color. It is actually the case that Hamites who did not like the people of Songhai, who believed that they were savages and they were different people than they worked with the Europeans and sold us into slavery. It is actually the case that the Europeans made agreements.
Notice there's no history here. He can't find anything to cite to back this up, because if you actually read history, as we just read, you're going to learn that the polities that were running the Oyo, the Homies, the Benin, all these people were selling their own damn people, raiding their own villages. They were in cahoots with the Portuguese, the Dutch, and all these other polities to sell their own damn people. That's why he just pontificated all of that and didn't show you any damn shred of evidence of what he's saying.
I still find it kind of funny that he's saying schools never taught about the Songhai Empire. It's secret knowledge.
They're hiding it in the Vatican and shit.
Literal entire books on this civilization.
This nigga literally went domain expansion, infinite stupidity.
With the Hamites to infiltrate the Songhai people. Soni Ali Burr, leader of the Songhai people, realized the importance of the Niger River for commerce and military operations. Like the Mali Empire before him, he divided his empire into provinces and placed each under the control of a governor. This was in the late 15th century. During this time, the people of Songhai were beginning to meet new visitors. People like Prince Henry the Navigator. He sent Portuguese ships and sailors down the west coast of Africa, establishing a number of coastal trading points. I mean, write these names down yourself so you can study them on your own. Prince Henry the Navigator and Soni Ali. Okay, so understand that these European explorers, they tried to get the Songhai people before they even used the Hamites. European explorers and traders seeking to get into the Sudan from the coastal regions found their way barred by rainforest and the mighty Songhai armed forces. There were raids to get slaves from the Songhai Empire. They were repulsed time and again during this early period of the Songhai rule. So this obviously brought about distrust from the Songhai people against all Europeans. The Europeans could not crack their defenses through the 15th and 16th centuries. They were attacked by Hamite converts to Islam, and by the end of the 16th century, they lost their control and were overtaken, and the people en masse were taken down the slave coast in chains on their way to the Americas. So let's keep going with this reversal of history, because the Songhai Empire is an empire of the semi-modern world that took place during the periods of the Renaissance. But there is much more to this history. In order to explain this, I'm going to target and pinpoint one specific area. This area right here. This area or settlement called Kukya, also known as Gao, please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. This place is highly important to understand. This was the first large settlement of the Songhai people. This place was situated in the Dendi country and known as Dendina, lying near the Niger River on the northwestern border of what is now the modern state of Nigeria. And so if we reverse engineer history with this point of Kukya as our point of reference, we can begin to gain more clarity of who the Songhai people were. Again, Kukya is also known as Gao. It is the same place. So if you remember, I said that the Songhai Empire came after the Empire of Mali. Okay, so we will continue back through time to this people of Mali. The Empire of Mali started around the early 13th century. I think it's the year 1226 to its decline in the 15th century when the Songhai took over. Just keeping it simple, this area of Gao was taken by Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was a powerful king of the Mali Empire. He extended the Mali Empire from east to west. In 1326 AD, he made a pilgrimage to Mecca, the holy city of the Mohammedans. He was a Muslim. On his pilgrimage, his general of Mali took control of Gao. Now, it is important to understand this because the same people that they conquered to take down this town of Gao were the same people that later reclaimed it and formed the Songhai Empire. I hope I'm not losing you, so just follow me. I'm just moving down through time, starting from the Songhai Empire down to the Empire of Mali. We descend from those people of the Songhai, those who took back our land from the Mali Empire. But when Mali took over, who did they take the land from? This is where we begin to receive clarity of who we are. But before we get into it, let's just summarize where we are in this reversal of history. Remember, we started at the transatlantic slave trade. Now, going back in time, before the slave trade, the people that were taken came from the Songhai Empire, which the slavers labeled Negro land. The Songhai Empire became dominant in the 15th century after the fall of the Mali Empire. The people of Songhai took back their land from the Mali Empire. The Mali Empire was before the Songhai Empire and started in the 13th century. What we want to learn is who were the people that the Mali Empire conquered when taking the land of Gao. Who was there before the people of Mali took it as their territory? That's where we're going right now in this reversal of history. So what we're going to understand right now is who the people were who Mali conquered. I want to make sure that's clear.
Scared to get indoctrinated. Then he can open up his dome.
When Mansa Musa
domain
returned from his pilgrimage to Arabia by way of Gao, he accepted the surrender from the king of Ghana and his nobles. Among these prisoners were Ali Kolon, or Kolon, and his brother Selmar Nar, the sons of Za Yasebi. So here's the answer of who controlled the land before Mansa Musa. Those who controlled the settlement of Gao before Mansa Musa took control were those of the Za dynasty. Write it down, Za dynasty. And it was this same people from that Za dynasty that Soni Ali, the one who started the Songhai Empire, it is this same people that they descend from. So if you're following, those in the transatlantic slave trade descend from the Songhai Empire, who are just descendants.
Ivry, remember I told you this guy dragged shit out for no goddamn reason?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
Oh, really?
He could have easily just said what he's trying to say here. But we're going all the way around the world instead of going directly to the point. Still don't know what the connection is here because he took 10 fucking minutes to say these are the people that ruled before the Mali. He could have just said that shit.
Bro, Jashub. He has to run out that timer, bro. It got to be a 30-minute video so he can fit in all the ads, bro. You know how it works. Yeah. He's like you. He's an entrepreneur. He's got to do his thing. Got to make that time run to at least 30, 40 minutes.
Mr. Fantastic, that's exactly right. Black Hebrew Israelites basically ruled Africa and created everything good. Unless they're actually involved in the slave trade, then they're Hamites. You see how that works? Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, Israelites, good guys. Hamites, bad guys. Lord of the Rings, bro.
of the Za dynasty who later reclaimed their land back from Mali. The Songhai Empire is often referred to as the Za Soni dynasty after Soni Ali. So, who are the people of the Za dynasty? And this is where it gets really interesting. This right here takes us back many centuries to the 4th century AD. This man that I'm illustrating is Za el-Yemeni. He came to Kukya, what we also call...
Yep. This is exactly where all roads lead to Israelites. This means that they're Israelites. That's why it's called the Za dynasty, because they are Israelites. Initially, Israelites, they brought literacy. Listen to this. These Israelites brought literacy to West Africa. Now, if he got evidence for this, he should be able to get all types of awards and money and funding, because we don't know of any West African literacy before Islam. But he's claiming it. Y'all about to see, he's going to claim that there was a literate society in Western Africa. When I say literate, I'm talking about they had a system of writing. I'm not implying anything else but that. In the 4th century or 3rd century Common Era.
He came around 300 AD, around that time. He established a line of kings known as the Za, or Dia dynasty, the Za dynasty. He was the founder of the first Sudanic dynasty in Western Africa. This man was a Yahudim, the actual Hebrew word for Jew. Za el-Yemeni was a Hebrew. His name is sometimes written as Za al-Ayaman. Za el-Yemeni came to the Niger country by way of Rogla in central Algeria today, written like this, Orgla. Orgla was a great trading center of the Yahudim. And Dr. Alan Godby...
And the funny thing is, the Wagla Jews in North Africa would fall into that category that he established early in the video of being Hamites. Remember, he said those people up there are Berber ancestry, were all Hamites. Come on. And Tazadak, we all know where he's getting this source from. I'm greatly versed in Black Hebrew Israelite mythology. I know all about them damn sources. I got all the books. We all know about Za al-Yaman, how you say his name. It's not a surprise to me, but this right here is about to show that this guy is doing nothing but storytelling. And right here, Lost Tribes of Myth. Here's the thing. You're telling a myth. You're telling them, because again, if you can show and prove a literate society before the advent of Islam, you're going to get all type of funding and awards from academies all over the world, because you'll be the first person on the planet to do so.
His book, The Lost Tribes, A Myth. In his book, he writes, the founder of the first Yahudim dynasty established his capital later at Gal, on the eastern upper Niger River. Nahum Schloutz, author of Travels in North Africa, he writes, the Arabs, Moors, and the Sudanic writers attribute to the ancient Black African Hebrews the establishment of the first empires. Says, the erection of the first public buildings in the country, the construction of the first canals and irrigation systems, and the institution of a social economic regime which still survives in all Saharan communities. So let me go over something. After the fall of Jerusalem, the Hebrews migrated and scattered all around the world. We know of their history in Europe, which I will tie in later. We know about their travels throughout Asia, but they also scattered in Africa and established themselves outside of the land of Cush, Mizraim, and Put. All of this area right here was not their land. They had no rights to it. This land of Canaan, that Canaan forfeited, this land of West Africa, they migrated into. The Yahudim came into the Western Sudan from northern and eastern Africa as a result of a series of migrations due to persecution. Please note that the word Yahudim is the actual word for Jew. These Yahudim migrated. They adopted new methods from other people and left their material, educational, and moral imprint among the people.
Here's another pseudo book that's, within BHI bibliography, so to speak. I read this book from front to end. I made a chapter review, study guides to this book. I know this book inside out. A lot of this stuff what he's saying is unfound, there's no way to prove any of these things. It's unfalsifiable. And then you get a lot of storytelling here and a lot of narrative making. That's all he's doing is spinning a narrative. You can't verify none of this shit. Jews scattered here and that's it. That's it. Anyway.
With whom they resided. For instance, as an example, in America, we, who they call black people, even in an oppressed land, though we have adopted many of their methods, we still have an imprint on their culture, and that's from a people who had no identity. These people who were migrating knew who they were. For many centuries, these Hebrews had to use great physical and psychological initiative. They could not afford to be complacent or show no concern about their surroundings and where they were. They were hated. So if they got too comfortable or complacent, that could mean cultural stagnation or death. The Yahudim imported into the western part of Africa a superior material, educational, and moral culture soon after 300 AD. And this cultural advancement was not duplicated or exceeded until the ascendancy of the Mohammedan leader, Mansa Kanka Musa.
See that? 480. Listen to the dates he's giving.
100 AD. And this cultural part of Africa, or show no concern about their surroundings and where they were. They were hated. So if they got too comfortable or complacent, that could mean cultural stagnation or death. The Yahudim imported into the western part of Africa a superior material, educational, and moral culture soon after 300 AD. And
300
cultural
AD.
advancement.
Soon after 300 AD, the Yahudim introduced what? A moral code and culture. Code and culture. He also claimed that these are scattered Jews after the fall of Jerusalem. So this is, first century. After the first century fall of Judea. Let me show you the issue with this. If Judeans, if swaths of Judeans fled during the first century into what is now West Africa, and he's claiming because of Jubilees, they forfeited, Canaanites, according to him, forfeited their land in West Africa. And there's a large influx of Judeans coming there. Why are they not literate? Where's the Aramaic script of West Africa? Where's all these things? Where's the instruments for writing? Where's all of those? Where's the evidence? Oh, the white man burnt it up. That's all you can say, huh? The white man burnt every damn thing up. They would have been speaking Aramaic because that was the common language during that time. That was the common language of Judeans. They would have had some semblance of those practices. We don't see that there. Go ahead.
Brother. What you don't understand, brother, is that when they were migrating from Israel to West Africa, they were under the curses. So they forgot who they were. And when they got to West Africa, they had amnesia. So that's why they didn't speak Aramaic or have the customs and the culture.
So, but he just said, let me play back what he said. Let me play back what he said. He didn't say that, Joe. He didn't say that.
Material, educational, and moral culture, that could mean cultural stagnation or death. The Yahudim imported into the western part of Africa a superior material, educational, and moral culture soon after.
Educational and moral culture. So I would like to see the Aramaic material culture or something that was brought along there.
Brother, you keep going back to this Aramaic. Listen here, brother.
They came from Judea. What the?
Brother, listen. They were under Roman occupation.
Oh, so great. That's a good point. They should know Greek.
Brother. Forget all that, brother. Listen, brother. Listen. They were cursed.
They should know Greek and Latin.
They were cursed. So they're gonna lose the language of the people that conquered them.
So they lost Aramaic, Greek, and Latin.
Yes, brother. Exactly, brother. And when they got around the Hamites, they adopted the Hamitic language.
Niger Congo.
Exactly.
And here's the funny thing, man. History shows, genetics and archaeological records shows us that there was a reduction of people, introgression of another people. It just did not happen 2,000 or 1,000 years ago. This happened 4,000 or 5,000 years ago as the desert was shrinking. You start seeing Saharan migrants come down and begin to reduce the natural inhabitants of Western Africa. So you're off about 5,000 years ago. This is way before Jews. This is way before Judea. This is way before any of that stuff. So it's kind of anachronistic. And also, just saying that this happened in the first century Judea after they fell by the Romans, these people would have had known Aramaic, would have known at least some Greek, some Latin, and you're saying they're bringing their education, their culture, and their material with them. Why don't we see this in West Africa? That's the question. Why don't we see this material culture during the 3rd century, the 4th century CE? Why don't we see this shit?
Because you don't have the Holy Ghost.
I don't have Holy. I guess it's all spiritual. You know, maybe I'm not in the domain expansion. You know.
Exactly, brother. Exactly.
The nigga said domain expansion, indoctrination.
300 AD, and this cultural advancement was not duplicated or exceeded until the ascendancy of the Mohammedan leader Mansa Kanka Musa of Mali in 1312 AD. The Yahudim had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture, their history, their laws, and written records with them. This assured them a
See? He said they carried, I'm writing this down, they carried their culture, their laws, and written records with them. So these are the literate Jews. They had a culture, their laws, and written records with them, so they would have had books. These books were probably Aramaic, some Greek, maybe Latin. Where's all this material culture at? Where is it? And I'm guessing this is in
the Hamites and the white man worked together to destroy it all, brother.
Nigeria, like.
Did the man not just say that Mali took over Songhai? They destroyed all the records. You're not paying attention.
I know one thing. You let a fool talk long enough, he gonna reveal himself, man. I'm telling you, this man had already put himself in a trick bag. Because he said they brought their culture, laws, and written records in the 3rd century. And I guess we're going to go with, the Hamites destroyed everything. The white man.
Well, that's what has to happen, bro.
Yeah. But the fake Jews, as they let them tell it, we can see where they were in Europe. We can see their synagogues. We can see some of their
all the plan of the devil who rules this world, who is the God of this world, all the plan of the devil. He's protecting the serpent seed. His seed.
You know, European Jews were persecuted heavily, and we still got relics of their culture, and we can see where they worship and their material culture. We can't see. We can't even get. We can't get one little morsel or parcel of something that shows that this actually took place.
Constant precedent for the development of a higher social organization. Because of the stability of their Hebrew culture, the Yahudim were not absorbed into the indigenous population. They had rules, they had laws, they had a Torah. They made use of every opportunity. They were an industrious and skillful people. From the Yahudim Ghanaian states were found kings, princes, governors, generals, secretaries, treasurers, revenue agents, judges, architects, engineers, doctors, historians, etc. They set up shop there. And when they migrated, we know they formed the Za dynasty. In his book, on his map on page 256, Professor Godby says that 22 Hebrew kings reigned in Ghana before the Hegira in in 622 AD, and 44 had reigned by 790. It is said that all the kings of Ghana were called by the title Kayamaga, which is said to mean King of Gold. Kumbi was the ancient capital of Ghana. It was located in the southern part of the present country of Mali. During the Middle Ages, understand, the name Ghana was not used to designate this country that we know today. Ghana was just the title of its kings. Ghana means strong warrior king, and was the title accorded to the kings of the medieval Ghana Empire in West Africa. This empire was a Hebrew empire, the Hebrew Empire of Ghana kings. The foundation of the Ghanaian Empire was based on the affluence of gold and iron. The use of iron in Africa, especially Ghana, revolutionized the social and military systems. Ghanaians fought
So
many
he's
wars
saying
against
Ghana
their
and
neighbors who did
Songhai
not use iron
is Hebrew.
or fought with bars of ebony.
Yep. So he makes a claim here, Kingdom of Ghana, right? That, which is
And
so
all of
funny.
Mali is the Hamites.
Yeah,
Mali is
Mali
the
is
Hamites.
Hamites, but Ghana, same area, right? Same.
Yeah. But that doesn't really make sense to me though, because all right, so Ghana is the first West African, I guess you say, kingdom. And then after that came the Mali Empire. And then after that came Songhai. So I'm trying to figure out, how did the people of Songhai get enslaved by the Mali kingdom if Mali was before the Songhai?
None of this shit is making any damn sense.
Mali's in the middle.
Somebody in
not.
the comment section make sense of this for me, because I'm kind of lost. But he says Ghana, which is like, Mauritania and parts of Mali, right?
It's parts of Mali and Mauritania and let me see, I can pull up a map. Mali, Mauritania. Well, it's basically the Western Sahel. Let's just put it that way, the Western Sahel.
And we know West Africans. Okay, so
And Ghana is older than Mali and Songhai. Ghana is first.
that's what I'm about to connect Ghana to Mali.
Yeah, first it's the Ghana Empire, then Mali. And he said Mali is the Hamites.
Let me get this straight.
And then after Mali, I'm talking about historically speaking, after Mali came Songhai. But he said earlier in the video that Mali conquered Songhai and enslaved the Hebrews. But that doesn't make sense because Mali was first. Or should I say Mali was before the Songhai?
Yeah. And the people of Mali would have been related to the people of Ghana. But he called the people of Mali Hamites. But the people of Ghana are Israelites. Somebody make this make sense to me, bro. I'm fucking lost. I'll be honest with you, bro. I'm lost.
Because Ghana was made by Mande peoples.
Many people, yeah.
Ghana, and Mali is also descendant
Mande.
of an extraction of Mande peoples, because there's different Mande tribes, but Mali is also, Mali was specifically the Mandinka specifically.
Yeah.
And Ghana, I think, was the Soninke, if I remember correctly. But they're both Mande peoples. Mandinkas, Soninke, they're all Mande. And Songhai is a little bit, it's not like it's super unique or anything, but Songhai, those people would be related to other West African Sahelian groups. But I see you got something pulled up. You can go ahead.
Right here, look. So based on high frequency of the macrosatellite diversity of E1B1AM2 in the Mandinka and Balanta, we suggest that these people may have experienced a particular benefit from food production. If so, this might associate their ancestors with the people who implemented the farming habits in the Guinea-Bissau area. The Mandinka are physically and culturally descendants of the Mande, protagonists of agricultural population expansions in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso region, and the rulers of West African Black empires based on trade and agriculture.
Yep. It's funny because trolls on Facebook and try to say that the Mali, Songhai, and Ghana empires was ruled by like non-E1B1A people. The E1B1A people were all slaves, and E1B1A is not really in the Sahel. Meanwhile, sources like this literally illustrate that Mandate peoples who carry E1B1A, like the Mandinka, at very high proportions, are the founders of those West African quote unquote black empires. It's just funny to me. Found in Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso. I don't know. It's just a little.
Damn
Just-
shame.
You know, I got to mention the Mana every now and then. The ones that act racist. Not all Mana act that way, but to the trolls on Facebook that they used to say wild stuff, it's like it's always nice seeing a source that kind of debunks what they typically say.
Just to recap, earlier in the video, he says the people of Mali
We're Hamites.
were Hamites.
Correct.
But now in this video, he's saying the people of the
Ghana.
are Israelites.
Correct. And Ghana is before Mali.
Right. And we know both of these people are descendants of Monday, the Monday people.
Yeah. And then he also says that the Songhai are also Israelites that were conquered by the people of Mali and got enslaved and were sent to the Americas by the Europeans.
And the Songhai will be more diverse than the Monday. It would be more.
Yeah,
like,
because Songhai seemed to have been a little bit. They have like a Nilo-Saharan type of extraction. I mean, they're still pretty much like other Sahelian groups, Western Sahelian groups, but there's probably like a Nilo-Saharan type of extraction with the Songhai because linguistically, Songhai is Nilo-Saharan.
right. Will we also say would have a North African Berber component amongst them as well?
I mean, amongst all three kingdoms, yeah, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, there's going to be a North African component among all three empires.
Because he said that the Berbers are Hamites. He established that also. Like, this is very confusing logic coming from this guy, man. Anyway.
Yeah, so hold on, let me see some.
We deep in this domain expansion. This thing got us in that mug right now.
Hey, but we're trying to dig ourselves out by looking at the all the cracks in his armor. every crack is being chipped away.
Yeah, because all these kingdoms would naturally come from the people at the heart of shit, or Walata and all these people that were first millennium BC peoples, and then they eventually develop into these first African states. Correct? So it's like,
yeah.
Come on, man.
I mean the Songhai and he this really goes to show that he doesn't understand like Western Sahelian or West African history, because the people who conquered, like, this is literally just a Google search away if you want to know who conquered the Songhai. If you type in wait, that's the wrong thing. My bad. Hold on. Wait, is that it? Yeah. Ethnically who? Yeah. Ethnically, if you just type in ethnically who conquered the Songhai Empire, it was the Moroccan kingdom and empire that conquered the Songhai in 1591. And it has sources right here that you can push. But he tried to tell us that it was the Mali Empire that conquered the Songhai. Again, all of this is just a Google search away. It was Moroccans that did it, not Mali.
Yeah, and these kingdoms did not just pop out of nowhere, and they did not come from Jewish extraction or Jewish migration. These kingdoms were already being developed in like the first millennium BC. They're already we're talking about the grassroots level. We're talking about the people that seeded the seeds for state development. That all comes in West Africa 1,000 years before the kingdoms pop up. That's where you get your Dahar shits, your Walatas, and your kingdoms like that.
And by the way, oh my bad, go ahead.
I'm about to say they're all migrating southwards, baby. Go ahead.
I'm going to show you something else as well while I'm talking or showing this. I want to just pull this up since we're going to get into the ethnicity of these groups, I want to show. Can you filibuster really quick while I pull this up, or you can play the video? I want to.
I know I can filibuster because I got a lot to say about this. Because we know real West African history is pretty much where you're getting these kingdoms and these statehoods from are people that are migrating after the desiccation of the Sahara Desert. And as they come down south, we can see them bringing their material culture with them, their crop cultivation, the agrarian lifestyle. Some people adopting the pastoral lifestyle coming down. Before in these regions, they did not exist. Like they did not exist in Ghana. They did not exist in Nigeria. They're coming from people that's coming from the north. But this is not happening during the time he's describing, 4th century CE. This is happening 2000 BCE. That's when we start seeing large communities beginning to aggregate in West Africa. These are the communities that later develop into the kingdoms and the states that we see later on, like Ghana, and then the medieval empires and stuff of that nature. So, I mean, we've done whole videos on that. I've read entire chapters in history books on that on the channel. I could just give you a quick one right here. This is from the book, the Oxford Handbook of African Archaeology. It says one of the first instances of food-producing communities known to research also lies on the Sahara-Sahel border, specifically in the southeastern Mauritania, along the escarpment of the Har-Tachit, Walata, and Nima. This area has yielded many sites dated to the second and early middle first millennia BC of a population that has for decades been associated with the rise of an agro-pastoral economy. So we're talking about 2000 BCE and 1000 BCE. This is way before the formation of Ghana. This is way before the fall of Judea. So none of these two don't have anything to do with each other, right? As there are no known precursors for these sites, this economy may have come about through migration rather than through further development of a local population. So again, the most parsimonious explanation for this is that as the desert was shrinking, you see agro-pastoralists migrate from the north down south into the regions that they're now associated with, right? It said the sites themselves are found either near lakes at the foot of the escarpment or on the edge of the plateau, and there are differing opinions on the relation to each other. Plateau sites part impressively large house and farm structures built of stone, up to 90 hectares in the area. They are the oldest villages of West Africa and embody a community that must have had a social organization quite different from that of small hunter-gatherer groups. To a not inconsiderable degree, it's probable that the particular environmental conditions along the escarpment, especially the availability of water, made settlement of the region possible. While the transition from gathering to the cultivation of pearl millet was at first assumed, more recent studies indicate that the pearl millet was cultivated from the beginning of the sequence, circa 1800 BC. So you see, and this is a lot older. This is actually where the elements and components of these early kingdoms in West Africa are getting it from. They're not getting it from this Jewish source that a lot of Black Hebrew Israelites like to invoke. They said this may indicate domestication itself took place elsewhere, perhaps further north, and that the settled community with its agro-pastoral economy came into Tachit, Walata, Nima region as a complete package. So this is a migration coming from the north. This is most likely those Mende ancestors that we were just reading about in the scientific article that were mainly E1B1A. It says in the Chad Basin of northeastern Nigeria, there arose Central Sahelian counterpart of Tachit, Walata, Nima, the Gajigana complex, discovered in the 1990s and named after the site where it was found. This tradition began in the early 2nd millennium BC and lasted about 1,500 years, defined by common artifacts and patterns in settlement, burial, and economy. There you go. These are the precursors of your West African states.
And just want to show something really quick before we get back to the video. So again, all of this that the guy is talking about on the YouTube video can be easily researched. Ethnically, who were the Ghana Empire? The Ghana Empire was made up of the Soninke people. So I was right earlier. The Soninke, who were part of a larger Mande ethnic group. So again, if you want to learn about who the Soninke are an ethnic group in West Africa who are part of the Mande ethnic group. These are the originators of the Ghana Empire, the Soninke. So who were the originators of the Mali Empire, who are supposed to be the Hamites? The originators of the Mali Empire are the Mandinka. The Mandinka are the ethnic are an ethnic group that are descendants of the Mali Empire. And if you want to know who the Mandinka are, again, Google search away. Ethnically, who are the Mandinka? The Mandinka are an ethnic group of West Africans, and they're part of the. All right, here it is. They are the largest subgroup of the Mande peoples. So the the Ghana people, the people who created the Ghana Empire, are the Soninke, who are part of the Mande peoples, and the Mali Empire are also Mande peoples because they're the Mandinka. And just like Shu mentioned earlier, these groups, Mande peoples, Soninke, Mandinka, etc., are majority UMB1A populations. So if he says that, if Truth Unedited believes that the Hamites are the Mali people, then by extension, he's also calling E1B1A African Americans Hamites.
Yeah.
And you might be wondering, who are the Songhai? That's the last ethnic group.
Yeah.
So if you type in ethnically who are the Songhai people, the Songhai people are an ethno-linguistic group in West Africa who are primarily located in Mali and Niger, the same area as the other empires. But the Songhai are closely related to the Zarma people, forgive me if I mispronounced it, who are predominantly found in Western Niger. So who are the Zarma people? Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. My bad. Ethnically, who are the Zarma people? Right here. So the Zarma people, as it says right here, language, the Zarma people spoke a dialect of Songhai, which is part of the Nilo-Saharan language family. And if you were to push this right here, it will show you them. And it will also give a little bit of information dealing with these people. Push this right here. Wait, no, wrong thing. Push this right here. This is what I mean by them being Nilo-Saharan. They're part of the Nilo-Saharan ethnic group. So the Songhai are not. They're not like recorded as speaking a Hebrew language. They're Nilo-Saharan speakers, and all these groups are ethnically very closely related. More or so, Ghana and Mali are ethnically more similar, because they're all Mende peoples, E1B1A peoples. Songhai might be a little bit different because of their Nilo-Saharan ancestry, but still, all these groups are kind of mixing with each other, anyways. So they're all kind of the same ethnically. They're all Western Sahelian groups, essentially. So yeah, this Truth Unedited guy really doesn't understand his West African history. Like how can you say that the Ghana Empire is Israelites and the Mali Empire is Hamites, but they're all Mande peoples? Like how? And then they all carry E1B1A at like super high percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he has that weird doctrine where it's like some E1B1A is Israel and some E1B1A is Ham. I don't.
Or he just completely disregards DNA anyway.
Yeah, that too.
Right, just completely disregarded, bro. Yeah, there might have been a lot of Eurasian DNA amongst, but like that's what I'm saying, man. The one that's mostly West Africa probably is more related to us. You're calling them Ham, but then also calling them Israelites at the onset, and then saying that the Songhai. I'm confused. I don't even.
Yeah, I should have pulled up the timeline next, but we can get back to the video. But yeah, Ghana's first, Mali is second, Songhai is last. So I don't even get how the Mali Empire conquered the Songhai when the Songhai were actually conquered by the Moroccans. It was the Moroccans who destroyed the Songhai Empire, not the Mandinka, or not the Mali Empire. Mali was already destroyed before Songhai. So his history is anachronistic. His telling of history is anachronistic.
Storyteller, yeah.
Yeah.
The Ghanaians could destroy their enemies because they fought with lances and swords. The king's revenue agents levied taxes on imports and exports, and the medium of exchange was gold. This was the Xaa dynasty, and it held sway in West Africa for over 1,000 years. Understand, all the kings of Ghana professed the Hebrew religion. But in the year 1009, a radical transformation occurred. Xaa Kasi accepted Islam. In his book, Africa, History of a Continent, when concerning Islam, Basil Davidson makes the point. Islam reached the markets of the Western Sudan by at least the 9th century, but it makes little initial impact. The rulers of Ghana do not accept Islam as one of their state religions. Only at the beginning of the 11th century are there a few such conversions. The earliest of any importance of which we know being that of the King of Gao, traditionally in 1010, followed by that of the King of Kanem-Bornu in 1086. Davidson says, these are tactical conversions. These kings are Muslims only in name, motivated as much to commercial convenience as by appreciation of the political and religious achievements and teaching of Islam. And so after this conversion, this later led to them falling to the Empire of Mali in the 13th century. There's too much history to go over to explain all this. I'm talking about 1,700 years of history condensed into a 30-minute video. This is not meant to be comprehensive. Again, I do give more details in this video if you ever wanted to get more details. The link
Remind
is
you
in the
watch that
description.
video next.
This is not a comprehensive history lesson, but it's just a reverse engineering of history that is meant to do one thing, and that's to explain who you are. If you are a descendant from the transatlantic slave trade, you are more than likely a descendant from the Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire are descendants of the Xaa dynasty. The Xaa dynasty is an empire of Hebrews who were led by Hebrew kings that controlled Western Africa in the Sudan region for 10.
Oh, this is just such a distortment of history, man. You always start off with distorting of history. Not everybody who came from no damn Songhai fucking empire, man. This is the truth. Some of us came from Senegambia. Some slaves came from Sierra Leone, Wimber Coast, Benin, Western Central Africa, including Angola and all those other places. None of those places are in Songhai. Matter of fact, most slaves came from those areas. When you think about it, Western Central Africa, and then Southeast Africa. Like, what are you talking about, man? What the hell is this dude? Like, bro, you smoking glass or something?
Yeah, again, most Songhai is a Nilo-Saharan group. Most African Americans are not Nilo-Saharan extraction; they're Niger-Congo extraction. That doesn't mean of Nilo-Saharan extraction. Some probably are, but most seem to be Niger-Congo.
Yep.
Before being converted to Islam and conquered by the Empire of Mali. The descendants of the transatlantic slave trade are descendants of the Hebrew kingdom of the Xaa dynasty that descend from the house of Israel and the house of Judah.
Domain expansion. Distortment.
This is who you are.
After we're done watching this video, we got to look at the comments, see if anybody fact checked them.
You are a descendant of the house of Israel and Judah. You are an Israelite. This is your history, and no one can take this from you now.
This is how I will prove that I am worthy of the best.
The Shub sure is trying to take it. He trying to steal you.
Before I conclude this part, let me give you one more piece of history that can help confirm what I am saying to you. We're going to talk about Eldad the Danite, or also called Eldad Hadani.
Oh, God.
In the 9th century, this Black African Hebrew arrived in the city of Karanan in Algeria.
Black? I thought you didn't like the word black.
Hebrew empire south of the Sahara in the Western Sudan. According to Eldad, the Hebrews in the interior of Africa spoke a Phoenician Hebraic language mixed with Arabic. They had a religion which had come down from Moses. Eldad said that the people of his tribe have fled from the kingdom of Yasharel after Sennacherib the Assyrian have subdued it, and that other Israelite tribes such as Naphtali, Gad, and Asher were in the land.
Well, you said that these Jews came down there during after the fall of Jerusalem in the 1st century or 2nd century, right? Now you're going to Eldad, and he's going all the way back to the 8th century BCE with the Assyrian conquest.
And from which he came. He told of the law of Moses, which they followed, the complete series of the scriptures except Esther and Lamentations. Eldad displayed as evidence some ceremony pertaining to the slaughtering of animals for food. It was written in Hebrew with an Arabic tint, but Eldad claimed that he knew no other language than Hebrew. In regard to Eldad's story, the Gaon, head of the Yahudim, assured the people that the story was credible. Solomon Grazel writes of Eldad in his book on page 279 in his book, History of the Jews. Understand, this is not hidden from record. It's just not known in the mainstream. His name is Eldad the Danite, or Eldad Hadani. Look him up, and then attach what else I have shared here. What I have tried to do in around 30 minutes is reverse engineer history from the transatlantic slave trade to the history.
You know, he ain't lying. He sure did reverse engineer history.
Slave trade
Yeah,
from.
definitely did that.
You are not a black person. You are not a person without history. You have a great history and you have a great future. But this is only true if you live in the truth. So like I used with the analogy of Samson's hair, the enemy has made sure that you never regrow your hair, and he keeps you tied to him so that you are able to be easily controlled. But if you wake up and live in the truth and be who you're supposed to be, you will no longer be cursed, but you will be blessed. But oh yeah, here's the hardest thing to hear. You actually are cursed. You know, many of us, personally, we have had to deal with this. We have to think and understand, why do people hate us so much? Why were our people so oppressed? And why is it that no matter what we do?
Because you always focus on the damn negative. You never focus on the motherfuckers that wave hi to you every goddamn day. The motherfuckers that tell you they love you every day. You never focus on them. Never focus on the people that you like at your job or your place of business. You don't focus on that. You don't focus on your kids that just happy to see you every damn day. You know what I'm saying? You don't focus on that. You get on here and you start these damn black pill cults and these depression cults and get on the video and tell black people that, oh, you're cursed. You're starting off on the wrong foot. Oh, you got it so bad. They got it bad. Look at these people living in they got a roof over their head. They got lights. They got food. They got water. They're able to take care of themselves. There ain't no damn military oppression coming down on your head, rain down on your head.
Yes, it is. It's the Republicans.
It's the Republicans. They hate us. Trump's an authoritarian. He wants to get rid of all black people. This is the type of shit they be doing, man. You be telling that, be kicking this lie, and black people got it. So black people got it good. Black Americans got it very, very good. They doing very, very well for themselves. And if they are struggling, a lot of times because of I always have to say this, because you guys make strings.
Hey, don't you say it. Don't
strings of bad decisions and compound those bad decisions, and no one told you to take accountability for it. That's why there's no restoration with those people. But again, we're 50 million strong here in America. Everybody want to use the bad cases when that's probably less than 10% of the goddamn people. Man. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it a bean. Stop that shit, man.
You shoe.
Yeah.
You raccoon.
You raccoon. See, there you go. The racial slur. These preachers of doom and gloom, they always get on here, we're presidents of the black people. Shut the fuck up. Anyway. But you got to do that because you make the people emotional, and an emotional person is more likely to buy your bullshit and donate to your cause.
Exactly. That's how Hitler tricked Nazi Germany, got them all emotional and stuff, and managed to throw 6 million human beings into an oven.
Yep. Anyway, I think that's a good stopping point. I'm going to bed, man.
You know what we got to do? I guess we already did it, but we probably got to, we probably got to do it just for our own audience, make sure folks know what's up.
Domain expansion. Infinite void. This is the inner world of limitless. Domain expansion.
Exactly. Domain expansion. Infinite indoctrination. Domain expansion. Black Hebrew Israelite cult.
Suck you in the black hole.
Domain expansion. Deuteronomy chapter 28.
Hey man, it's up to us. We gotta get them. We gotta get them out of that gen jutsu, bro.
Yeah, y'all trapped in the genjutsu right now. I'm telling you,
For real though.
Deeply trapped in it,
bro. We gotta be like Madara and get them out. Actually, no, we gotta. It's the Kaguya. Trying to put them in the under the spell of the moon. Put them in that dream state.
Truth Unedited. He cast Rennie Rebirth. He was able to speak to King Bulan and personally find out why he converted to Judaism. That would also mean that he was able to speak the language of King Bulan at the time.
Hey, doesn't the devil give his servants, abilities and powers to, do what they got to do?
Yeah.
I got one clip though for the if we're going to end off here. We're ending off here.
Yeah.
All right, I got one clip for this video, for Truth Unedited's video. This is what I got.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
No points. No points. 0 points for Gryffindor. I mean for Slytherin.
We out of here, man.
Yeah. Sound good to me. This sound hard. Something funky people gon' dance to. Give the record a second and a chance to. Hitting people like a scene of amazement. While they slipping back, my feet just planted in the pavement. Crumble I can never do. So now I'm looking dead at you. What are you gonna do? You listen to the knowledge of a scholar. You say how I breathe, tell them how I holler. I'm the E-double, and I proclaim my name. Straight up, good gang, peeps all game. I'm like a rhino, running through the roughest pack. They figure I'm a trigger-happy nigga, so they step back. Breathe. The microphone is who lasts the longest, so who's the strongest. It ain't a game, it's plain to see. You listen to the sounds of breathe. There ain't a future in your front. I never got caught with a kilo, and if you ever do, yo, will never be with me, yo. Serving in the Cherokee, or maybe it's a Geo. Black on black Benzo, we'll get it up, amigo. Never have to worry about my posse getting jumped, cause if we ever do, yo, TB, pop the trunk. Cause we don't go for playing, wanna play, go grab a ball. When I'm on the mic, I ain't for playing, not at all. Cause I clock 10 G's a week, booming at my peak. Always see E sober, but I do get geek. I can give you a job, a place to eat. Hardy, meet your homeboy Marty at a B.O.B. Party taking over, barking like a dog named Rover. I'm picking suckers like a 4-leaf clover. They biting words on the mic, they some cobras. So now they saying egg breeders getting over. but ain't no future in your front. There ain't no future in your front. I'm the B, the R to the double E-G, and down with my homie G-A-S-N-O-E, and suckers causing static cause they still be disagreeing. I don't give a, cause I'm from F-L-I-N-T, in a city where pity runs slow. If you ever shoot through my city, now you know, cause we are strictly business and we also got a pride. And if you don't like it, I suggest you break wide. Suckers study looking for the ammo in the wire, thinking that illegal is the best one, so they die. I ain't got time to see a fiend out, to give up all his money and to give up what he got. That's the way I am, MC B cannot be different. Never change the ways for the world or the government. If I was the president, then I would state facts. You leave it up to me, I'll paint the White House black and ain't no future in your front. There ain't no future in your front. Yeah, I got dollars in my pocket, not from rolling. If I was a fiend, then my gold would be stolen. Put my name breed on everything I own. And when I get my Jeep, I'm putting breed on the chrome. Shine it up good, kick it through my neighborhood. Motorola phone, fat rims and a Kenwood. Put the kid around it, and then I'll have it drop. Just because the rotten people think I'm selling rocks, but ain't no future in your front. There ain't no future in your front. Yo, Flash, we ain't drop that, man. Why don't you drop that? To the rules of the world. Live my life raw cause I never liked the law. Wear top 10s on my ass, use jeans. Selling big gates and tit for tat to the fiends. Like much dollars but I never break a sweat. Time to move out, my posse saying, you got my back and I got yours. What time is it? Tear down the door. It ain't no future in your front. Never was, cuz. There ain't no future in your front. Yo, man, let's start this party up, right? Kick out that fat dance.